Chapter 72. Chapter 72. Talent Crystal. That was right. This old man was the same as what Yi Fei had seen when he comprehended the sword intent. He was actually a ruler, and his strength was so strong that he had transcended this world. Having said that, a ruler like that had been suppressed for 3,000 years and was almost at the end of his life. Given that, how fearsome must the person who suppressed the ruler be? Damn it! Which enemy has come to find me? This old man is like a lamp that has run out of oil. If that enemy breaks the devil ceiling pagoda, I, the devil emperor, will lose my life. The old man, no, the devil emperor, felt the terrifying vibration of the devil ceiling pagoda and became paranoid. This was a common problem of those old fellows who had lived for a long time. Even if he was beaten to death, the demon emperor would never have thought that it was not one of his old enemies that had caused all this. It was purely the negative effects caused by Yi Fei triggering the undying sword soul. His gaze returned to the interior of the demon's ceiling tower. Yi Fei wielded the soul-devouring sword and stood coldly in front of the heroic spirit monarch. The heroic spirit monarch had already been turned into a pile of minced meat by Yi Fei's undying sword soul. It was almost impossible to tell that he had once been human. It was not as simple as a heroic spirit king. Even Yi Fei had never thought that the 10% sword intent combined with the undying sword soul would unleash such terrifying power. Not only was the heroic spirit king reduced to mincemeat with a single strike, but even the regular heroic spirits nearby were affected by the destructive presence of the undying sword soul. They were all reduced to mincemeat, unable to split apart again. In other words, Yi Fei had killed the 10th level Martial Master Heroic Spirit King and over 100 Martial Master Heroic Spirits with just one strike. So powerful! Bai Ling froze on the spot. She blinked her beautiful big eyes, and on her cold face, her red lips parted slightly, as if something could be stuffed into her mouth. She was completely frightened by Yi Fei's sword. Yi Fei's sword was absolutely terrifying. It was not an exaggeration to say that it could wipe out an army. Bai Ling was so shocked that she was stunned for more than a minute before she reacted. She looked at Yi Fei in horror and asked, "Are you really Junior Brother Yi?" Bai Ling probed. Even if her master, Elder Chun of the Sword Sect, was here, he wouldn't be able to do better than Yi Fei. Oh no! Yi Fei groaned inwardly when he heard Bai Ling's words. If he had not been forced into a corner, he would never have revealed his undying sword soul. It wasn't that Yi Fei didn't believe Bai Ling, but the undying sword soul was of great importance. Countless fiend gods and demons were willing to sacrifice their lives for it. If others found out that such a sword soul was in his body, not only Yi Fei, but even his family, you would face an unimaginable disaster. No, I have to think of a way to fool them. Yi Fei's mind spun rapidly. In less than a dozen breaths, he had already thought of a good way to conceal it. Wah! Yi Fei suddenly channeled his qi and blood, forcing himself to spit out a large mouthful of blood. Then he fell to the ground with a pale face. Yi Fei! Bai Ling was scared out of her wits. Yi Fei had been like a god just a moment ago, making her fear and look up to him. How could he have collapsed just like that? Yi Fei, are you all right? Don't scare me. Bai Ling let Yi Fei lie in her arms. She sounded like she was about to cry. Yi Fei silently apologized to Bai Ling in his heart. However, in order to hide the undying sword soul, he still had to make up a story. Cough, cough, cough. Sister Bai, I'm fine. Actually, there's something I didn't tell you. When I received the evil Sword King's inheritance, he also left behind a terrifying sword aura. However, the price to pay for activating that sword aura was extremely high. Now, my meridians and dantian are all damaged. I'm afraid that I won't be able to use my vital essence for a long time. Yi Fei looked like he was about to die. It was a pity that he didn't tell Bai Ling that he was about to cry. Junior Brother Yi, don't say anything. I'll go find that senior now. Perhaps he has a way to cure you. Bai Ling couldn't help but hug Yi Fei even tighter. She was very nervous and wanted to leave this place and return to the outside of the stone door. Of course, Yi Fei wouldn't let Bai Ling leave just like that. His words could only deceive Bai Ling. However, if he told that old devil, he would be exposed in the blink of an eye. Please don't. Senior sister, that's a great devil. It's very likely that he'll turn his back on us. When I was still able to fight, that devil saw that I was still useful to him and treated us nicely. However, if he finds out that I'm seriously injured and no longer of any use to him, he could kill us at any time. Yifei said with a serious expression. He was really worried that the undying sword soul had alerted that old devil. Bai Ling cried and said, "But your sword strike just now was so terrifying. It's impossible for that devil to not sense it. We can't deceive him at all." Who says we can't deceive him? The commotion just now was so big that it's impossible for the two of us to do it with our abilities. If that devil asks, we can completely pretend that we don't know anything. If it doesn't work, we can also say that it might be an earthquake. That devil is trapped here and can't leave or come in. He'll definitely be suspicious and won't suspect us. When Yifei said this, he would never have thought that the Devil Emperor would start to be suspicious and afraid that an enemy would come knocking on his door. All right then, it seems like that's the only way. Bai Ling nodded. In fact, she didn't trust the Devil Emperor very much either. However, she wasn't sure if Yi Fei's method would be able to deceive the Devil Emperor. Senior sister, remember, when we go out, don't say anything. I'll tell you everything. We have to speak the same story so that the old devil won't suspect us. Yi Fei reminded Bai Ling again. Bai Ling glanced at Yi Fei and said, "Don't worry. I'm not such a foolish person. You tell me everything. I'll just nod my head. Also, Bai Ling, won't tell anyone about what happened today." That's good. After receiving Bai Ling's guarantee, Yi Fei completely relaxed. He still trusted Bai Ling quite a bit. After the two finished their discussion, Yi Fei pretended to stagger to his feet. He planned to walk out and ask the Devil Emperor how to leave the Demon Ceiling Pagoda. Yi Fei, wait a moment. There seems to be something over there. Bai Ling was a woman and was more observant. She discovered two shiny objects where the heroic spirit king had been killed. She walked over and picked them up. She didn't recognize them, so she handed them to Yi Fei and said, "Yi Fei, do you know what these are?" Yi Fei smiled bitterly. "Senior sister, even you don't know. How could I know?" Then, Yi Fei's heart skipped a beat. When he held the two crystals, the indestructible sword soul in his body trembled slightly. Then, it immediately hid itself. Yi Fei almost couldn't sense it. At this moment, a figure came in from outside the stone door. He looked at Yi Fei in disbelief and said, "You actually killed the heroic spirit king. Even its talent soul crystal was dropped. Don't tell me that the shaking of the demon ceiling pagoda was caused by you?" Hearing the Devil Emperor's words, Bai Ling immediately felt guilty and quickly lowered her head. Yi Fei's heart was also in turmoil, but he put on an even more shocked expression. "Senior, didn't you say that you couldn't come in?" "Humph, this old man couldn't come in only when there were heroic spirits here. However, you've killed all of them. Of course, this old man could come in. Young man, you've hidden yourself well." Versatile Demon Emperor gazed at Yi Fei closely as he didn't want to miss any change in Yi Fei's expression. But what the Devil Emperor didn't know was that Yi Fei had been bullied by the family Yi for 3 years. Even though he was very nervous, Yi Fei still put on an extremely shocked expression and said, "Senior, what are you talking about? Wasn't it you who caused the shaking of the demon ceiling pagoda just now to save us? Senior sister and I were just about to leave to thank you for saving our lives." Chapter 73. Chapter 73, Crazy Promotion. Kid, you really didn't lie to me. Since the commotion in the demon ceiling tower wasn't caused by you, how did you manage to kill all the heroic spirits here, including the heroic spirit king? The Demon Emperor still looked at Yi Fei suspiciously. It had to be known that this demon ceiling pagoda was a land of death. Over the past thousands of years, countless talented martial artists had entered this place. There were even some that were more powerful and talented than Yi Fei. But in the end, none of them were able to stop the attacks of the infinite heroic spirits, let alone kill them all at once. This in itself was strange. Those who could become demon emperors were definitely not that easy to be fooled. Yi Fei had long prepared for this. He had also thought about his excuse in advance. Yi Fei pretended to be confused and said, "Senior, I don't understand what you mean. Don't tell me you think that we killed these heroic spirits? How is that possible? Just now, we were almost killed by those heroic spirits." But for some unknown reason, the Devil's Ceiling Tower suddenly trembled. Then Senior Apprentice Sister and I felt the heroic spirits surrounding us shatter. "Humph! Brat, do you think this old man is so easily fooled? Whether or not you did it, this old man will know with a single look." The Devil Emperor simply ignored Yi Fei's words. His eyes had already flashed with two profound devil lights. Those two devil lights were simply too powerful. The moment the light appeared, Yi Fei felt a huge pressure that made him and Bai Ling unable to move. They could only allow the Demon King to examine their bodies. Obviously, while Yi Fei and Bai Ling were guarding against the Demon Emperor had also secretly held back against them. At the very least, the Demon Emperor had said that it was only a spiritual consciousness and could not harm them. However, Yi Fei knew very well that if this old devil really wanted to kill them, he wouldn't be able to resist, even if it was just a spiritual thought. Realizing that she could not move, Bai Ling's entire body tensed up and her face turned pale. Only now did she realize that Yi Fei's speculation was right. The old man in front of her was not as kind as she had imagined. Yi Fei, on the other hand, had an indifferent look on his face. If this old devil wanted to inspect him, then let him do it. After all, the undying sword soul had automatically hidden itself when the Demon Emperor had come in, existing between existence and non-existence. The Demon Emperor didn't notice it earlier, so it was naturally impossible for him to notice it now. Demon Shine carefully probed the two people's bodies. The Demon Sovereign really didn't discover anything. "How strange. There's nothing in your bodies. So how did you cause the Devil's Ceiling Tower to react? You even killed all the heroic spirits. Could there really be some terrifying expert outside trying to attack the Devil's Ceiling Tower?" muttered the Demon Emperor. After discovering that there was no problem with the two people, the Demon Emperor became increasingly suspicious. He suspected that some enemy of his had found this place and was trying to forcefully break into the Devil's Ceiling Tower. Yi Fei also wanted such an effect. Before the Demon Emperor could think any further, he felt the pressure on his body loosen. Yi Fei immediately changed the topic and asked, "Senior, you said that once we withstood the attack of the heroic spirits, we would be able to leave the Devil's Ceiling Tower. Is that true?" "Humph, it's not impossible for you to leave. But this old man will advise you. Before you leave, you'd best hurry up and absorb this innate soul crystal. It was shaken just now, and the crystal has already cracked. If you don't absorb it soon, its energy will quickly dissipate." The Demon Emperor didn't directly answer Yi Fei's question. Yi Fei was a bit disappointed. He understood that this old devil wouldn't let them leave so easily. "May I ask, Senior, what is the use of this innate soul crystal?" Bai Ling also asked. When she saw that Yi Fei was changing the topic, she also cooperated with him. She tried her best not to let the Demon Emperor think about the strange movement just now so that they wouldn't give themselves away. Yi Fei also praised in his heart. At the same time, he exchanged a tacit glance with Bai Ling. The Demon Emperor snorted coldly. He glanced at Bai Ling and said, "What did your master teach you?" "The innate soul crystal is a treasure left behind by a martial king expert after their death. A single soul crystal can raise your innate talent to Xian 10th grade. Even though it has lost a lot of energy, it can still raise your innate talent by 2 to 3 grades. However, you'd better absorb it as soon as possible. This soul crystal is too damaged. I estimate that it will completely lose its effect in less than an hour." The Demon Emperor explained in detail this time. His hostility toward Yi Fei and Bai Ling had completely disappeared. The Demon Emperor hadn't found anything suspicious about Yi Fei and Bai Ling. He had already subconsciously assumed that the strange movement in the Demon Ceiling Pagoda had been caused by an expert of the same level as him. Perhaps it was a powerful enemy who had finally found this place. The Demon Emperor couldn't help but feel a little worried. His tone also became a lot friendlier. Even so, his words still shocked Yi Fei and Bai Ling. This innate soul crystal had such a great effect. Then, Yifei made up his mind. He handed the innate soul crystal to Bai Ling without hesitation and said, "Sister Bai, take this and absorb it quickly." Bai Ling was shocked. She immediately refused. "Yifei, are you crazy? This is an innate soul crystal. If you absorb it, you will immediately become a top genius in Wu Province. How can you get it to me?" Bai Ling didn't understand. The Demon Emperor was also a little surprised. He couldn't understand why Yifei would give away such a treasure. They didn't know that Yifei had the undying sword soul in his body, which could continuously improve the quality of his dantian. To be honest, the innate soul crystal might be extremely precious in the eyes of others. However, in Yifei's eyes, it was of little value. It didn't matter whether he took it or not. Yifei's attitude became extremely firm. He forced the soul crystal to Bai Ling and said, "Sister Bai, don't refuse. If it weren't for you, I would have been killed by that bastard Li Xian. I wouldn't be here now. Take this soul crystal as my thanks. If you don't want to accept it, you can throw it away. I won't absorb it anyway." After saying this, Yifei walked to the side and let Bai Ling do whatever she wanted with the soul crystal. Bai Ling certainly didn't want to throw it away. She knew Yifei's character very well. Bai Ling could only smile bitterly and nod. "All right, junior brother Yi. This time, I, Bai Ling, will owe you a favor." Bai Ling understood that although she had helped Yifei before, it wasn't as precious as this innate soul crystal. Her heart was filled with gratitude and excitement. As long as she absorbed this soul crystal, she would be able to upgrade her 10th grade Huang ranked dantian to the profound rank. In the past, Bai Ling wouldn't have dared to imagine that such a day would come. This was all thanks to Yifei. Yifei nodded as he watched Bai Ling walk to the side and start absorbing the soul crystal. He felt that he had finally repaid the favor he owed her. Therefore, he picked up another soul crystal and asked the Demon Emperor, "Senior, what about this one? Is this also a innate soul crystal?" "No, this is a spiritual energy stone. It's practically a spiritual energy stone. It was refined by the master of the Demon Sealing Tower to control the heroic Spirit King. Of course, cultivators can also refine it to upgrade their cultivation. Unfortunately, this spiritual energy stone hasn't been replaced for 3,000 years. The spiritual energy inside is very thin. At most, it can upgrade your cultivation by 3 to 5 levels." The Demon Emperor shook his head. Yifei couldn't help but exclaim, "Holy shit! A spiritual energy stone could raise one's cultivation by 3 to 5 levels. Yet the Demon Emperor still said that it was nothing. Indeed, their cultivation levels were different, so the things they saw were different. Seeing that the Demon Emperor didn't say anything else, Yifei couldn't be bothered to ask more. He quickly picked up the spiritual energy stone and found a place to sit down and start refining it. "I wonder if this spiritual energy stone can upgrade my cultivation beyond 5th grade martial master. If that's the case, I'll be rich." Yifei licked his lips as his eyes flashed with excitement. However, he didn't notice that the Demon Emperor was looking at him with dark eyes. Clearly, the Demon Emperor hadn't given up yet. He wanted to see if there was anything strange about Yifei. Therefore, he purposely let Yifei cultivate so that he could carefully inspect Yifei while he was cultivating to see if there was anything strange about Yifei. Yifei couldn't help but sigh. The older, the wiser. An old demon who had lived for 3,000 years definitely wasn't easy to deal with. "Fortunately, I'm not afraid at all. As long as the undying sword soul doesn't appear of its own accord, no one will be able to discover its existence." Yifei thought to himself. Chapter 74. Apprenticeship to the Demon Emperor. Boom. 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 True Yuan surged within Yifei's body like a tsunami. The effect of the Spirit Stone was simply terrifying. Even though this Spirit Stone had almost exhausted all of its spiritual qi after thousands of years, its remaining spiritual qi was still able to allow Yifei's true Yuan to grow at an incomparably terrifying speed. Boom. In just 15 minutes, Yifei felt the barrier of the 2nd grade martial master instantly break through under the impact of the berserk true yuan. Boom! After another 15 minutes, Yi Fei felt that even the barrier of the third-grade martial master was unable to stop the berserk true yuan. The dam collapsed in the blink of an eye. The huge amount of true yuan had pushed Yi Fei to the peak of the fourth-grade martial path. At this point, Yi Fei finally felt a little bit of an obstacle, but it was only a little bit. Boom! Without any suspense, he smoothly broke through to the fourth-grade martial path. Yi Fei had never felt that cultivation was as simple as breathing and eating. He didn't need to do anything. He only needed to constantly absorb the remaining energy within the spirit stone. The massive amount of true yuan would automatically clear all the bottlenecks blocking him. Fifth-grade martial path, break through for me. Yi Fei roared as he felt the berserk true yuan in his body gradually calm down. He simply gathered all the true yuan in his body in one go and broke through to the fifth-grade martial master. In a short 2 hours, Yi Fei had broken through from the first level of the martial master to the fifth level of the martial master. This cultivation speed was enough to make the martial house's martial house master faint from fright. However, Yi Fei wasn't satisfied. He felt that there was still a trace of spiritual energy left in his body. He immediately grasped this last bit of time and continued to increase his strength. Fifth grade martial master. Early stage, mid-stage, late stage. Breakthrough. Boom. Yi Fei realized that when he reached the peak of the fifth grade martial master, the spiritual energy in his body had been completely exhausted. Thus, Yi Fei, who was just one step away from breaking through to the sixth level, still failed in the end. How unlucky! We were so close. Yi Fei opened his eyes, his face full of regret. At this time, the Demon Emperor also withdrew his demonic light from Yi Fei, and his face became even more confused. Strange, truly strange. This brat is a bit strange, but I didn't find any treasures on him that could trigger the demon ceiling pagoda. Could it be that this old man was overthinking things? The Demon Emperor had a conflicted look on his face. Clearly, he was starting to get suspicious again. Yi Fei was speechless. Finally, he could not help but stand up and say, "Senior, aren't you overthinking things? If Senior Sister and I could threaten you, would we still be trapped here?" Yi Fei was indirectly reminding the Demon Emperor that he should tell him how to get out of the demon ceiling tower. The Demon Emperor coldly looked at Yi Fei and said, "Brat, do you know who this old man is? How dare you talk to this old man like that?" Not only was Yi Fei not afraid of him, but he even dared to bargain with him. The Demon Emperor was a little annoyed. "Senior, who are you? Please tell me your name," Yi Fei respectfully asked. He was also very curious about this old man's identity. To be able to survive being suppressed for 3,000 years, this in itself proved that this old man was very powerful. This old man is the Demon Emperor, an existence that can move unhindered in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. When this old man was at his peak, not to mention your lowly Wu province, I could even destroy a holy land with a flip of my hand. The Demon Emperor proudly waited for Yi Fei's admiration and submission. Unexpectedly, Yi Fei only curled his lips and muttered, "Demon Emperor, is this for real? You can even destroy a holy land with a flip of your hand? If you're really that strong, how could you be suppressed by the demon ceiling pagoda? This person can't be bragging, right? You brat, how preposterous." The Demon Emperor heard Yi Fei's mutterings without missing a word. He was so angry that his face turned green. Being suppressed by the demon ceiling pagoda was the greatest humiliation of his life, and Yi Fei actually dared to say it. Did he really think that the Demon Emperor had a good temper? Boom! Without any warning, the Demon Emperor was angered to the point of killing Yi Fei. Yi Fei was not afraid at all. He even waved his hand and said, "Senior Demon Emperor, can you stop messing around? We are the only people who have passed through the siege of the heroic spirits. We might be the only hope to save you. If you kill us, how will you get out?" The Demon Emperor held his breath and almost vomited blood because of Yi Fei. After a while, he reacted and said, "Brat, you are quite brave. You deliberately provoked this old man just now so that you could get information out of this old man. Hee hee, senior, what are you saying? This junior is an upright person. If there is something to be said, then there is something to be said, Yi Fei said with a mischievous smile. He even showed an honest expression, which made the demon emperor angry and amused at the same time. He even faintly showed his admiration for Yi Fei, casually flicking out a beam of black light that enveloped Yi Fei and himself. The devil emperor shook his head and said, "Sigh, kid, this old man quite admires your courage. But your cultivation is too low, and your talent is too poor. To be honest, when this old man was at his peak, you weren't even qualified to be a devil soldier under this old man's command. Your talent and cultivation are too trashy. Damn it." Even though he was facing the demon emperor, Yi Fei still felt a little angry. Yi Fei suddenly changed his tone. He sighed heavily and said, "Now that things have come to this, there is no other way. If your talent is trash, then so be it. At most, if there's a chance in the future, I will kill a few more martial kings and martial saints and use their talent soul crystals to forcibly raise your talent. With your comprehension ability, as long as your talent can keep up, it is not impossible for you to become an expert in the future. Brat, this old man wants to ask you, are you willing to be my disciple?" The demon emperor's voice was solemn. Yi Fei was startled on the spot. He said in surprise, "Senior demon emperor, you want to take me as your disciple? So you want to use the master-disciple relationship to get me out of your predicament?" The demon emperor's action was too obvious. He did not mind that Yi Fei had seen through him. Instead, he said, "That's right. This old man has this intention. Since your comprehension ability is not bad, this old man will take a loss and reluctantly accept you as my disciple in name." Yi Fei did not say a word and directly turned his back to the demon emperor. He thought to himself, "This old demon is indeed arrogant. It is your good fortune to accept me as your disciple. You are still reluctantly accepting me as your disciple. Since you're reluctantly accepting me as your master, then what's the point of taking me as your master?" The demon emperor's face turned ashen because of Yi Fei for the second time. If he was at his peak, there would be countless monstrous geniuses fighting over him, but none of them had the chance to take him as their master. Now, the demon emperor did not despise Yi Fei's trash talent and was willing to accept Yi Fei as his disciple, but he was actually rejected. The demon emperor's face turned green on the spot. "Brat, being able to take this old man as your master is the greatest fortune of your life. Do you really want to refuse?" The demon emperor said, "Senior, you should keep this kind of fortune for the fated one." Yi Fei could not be bothered with the demon emperor's high and mighty appearance. "Fine, fine. You brat." The demon emperor saw that Yi Fei was stubborn and was immediately put in a difficult position. He was like a lamp that had run out of oil. He no longer had the time to wait for the next wave of people to come in. Most importantly, the strange movements from the demon ceiling pagoda had caused the demon emperor to feel a great sense of crisis. He could only put down his arrogance and use a negotiating tone. "Brat, this old man is afraid of you. Tell me, what do I have to do to make you take this old man as your master?" Yi Fei's attitude was still indifferent as he said, "That would depend on what you have that would attract me." Impudent. This was blatant extortion, and the target was the demon emperor. But then he remembered that Yi Fei was his only hope of escaping this predicament. The demon emperor had no choice but to suppress his anger. He stared at Yi Fei for a while and said, "You want benefits? That's easy. Although this old man does not know how someone with your trash talent and strength managed to fuse with the tyrannical extraterrestrial divine flame, you have not completely fused with the divine flame. If some evil spirit were to see this, they would have at least 10 vicious methods to force the divine flame out of your body." Boom! The demon emperor's words caused Yi Fei's mind to explode. Without another word, he turned around and bowed. "Master, please help this disciple remove this hidden danger." Chapter 75. Chapter 75, Exiting the Demon Ceiling Tower. Ahem, my disciple. Your name is Yi Fei, right? Hurry up and get up. The Demon King coughed and forced a smile onto his aged face. But everyone could see how forced this smile was. The Demon Emperor really didn't know what to say about Yi Fei's style of running away when there were no benefits, but taking action when there were benefits. What the Demon King didn't know was that Yi Fei was already laughing in his heart. He was doing this on purpose to disgust the Demon King. He had no intention of becoming the Demon King's disciple at all. Yi Fei understood that the Devil Emperor didn't really want to take him as a disciple. He just wanted to use the status of master and disciple to get him out of trouble. If Yi Fei weren't afraid that he would offend this old devil by refusing too much, he wouldn't even call him master. Yi Fei stood up and pretended to greet him as a disciple. Then, he boldly asked for benefits. Devil Emperor, I'm your disciple now. Look at the divine flame inside my body. How dare you? You are still so mischievous, even after acknowledging me as your teacher. How did your previous master teach you? The Demon Emperor was very displeased. Yi Fei's attitude made it clear that he did not truly regard him as his master. Even though the Demon Emperor had no intention of accepting Yi Fei as his disciple. I've never had a master before, Yi Fei replied in the same self-righteous manner. The Demon Emperor was incomparably shocked. He couldn't help but exclaim, "What? You have such a lousy talent. How did you comprehend the seed of sword intent so quickly without any guidance?" Of course, Yi Fei would not answer such a sensitive question. Instead, he asked why. Is it very difficult to comprehend the seed of sword intent? The Demon Emperor was left speechless. Comprehending the seed of sword intent might not be a problem for peerless geniuses, but for a warrior with low talent like Yi Fei, it was extremely difficult. However, this also proved how terrifying Yi Fei's perception was. The Demon Emperor's mood improved a lot. He had actually acknowledged Yi Fei as his disciple. Since he was his disciple, the Demon Emperor naturally wouldn't threaten Yi Fei anymore. Instead, he tried to tempt him. Disciple, it's easy for you to fuse with the divine fire of outer heaven. Master can help you. Don't move. Master will help you get rid of the hidden danger in your body. Boom. Before Yi Fei could react, the Devil Emperor shot out another dozen beams of devil light into Yi Fei's body. Yi Fei turned pale with fright and secretly cursed this old devil for being so cunning. It didn't look like he couldn't make a move. The Demon Emperor was clearly still in a rather powerful state. Subsequently, Yi Fei also noticed that something was wrong with the Devil Emperor's body. As rays of demonic light entered his body, the Demon Emperor's consciousness gradually dissipated, and his body was on the verge of collapsing at any moment. The consciousness represented a part of the soul. If the consciousness was damaged, the soul would be damaged as well. The Demon Emperor was willing to go to such great lengths to help him completely fuse with the divine fire of outer heaven. Even though Yi Fei knew that the Demon Emperor was trying to increase his strength and use him to help the Demon Emperor escape, he was still somewhat moved. No matter how impure the Demon Emperor's motives for taking him in as a disciple were, Yi Fei was still a disciple. The divine fire of outer heaven in his body was also completely fused with because of the Demon Emperor. This was also a favor. Since there was a favor, he had to repay it. This was also Yi Fei's principle. When he sensed that the divine fire of outer heaven in his body had indeed been refined by the demonic light and completely fused with him, Yi Fei knelt down again without another word. Many thanks to Master for helping me get rid of the hidden danger. Master has done me a favor, so I can't be heartless. Master, tell me what I need to do to help you escape the suppression of the demon's sealing pagoda. Yi Fei threw caution to the wind. Only this way could he repay the Demon Emperor's kindness. Although Yi Fei hadn't known the Demon Emperor for long, his intuition told him that although the Demon Emperor had the word demon in his name, he wasn't a callous demon who couldn't distinguish between good and evil. This was another reason why Yi Fei was willing to help the Demon Emperor. Good. This old man really didn't take you in as a disciple for nothing. Disciple, don't feel bad about it. This old man damaged his soul in order to help you, But with this old man's strength, as long as I escape, this injury will quickly recover." The demon emperor saw Yi Fei's worry, and a gratified smile appeared on his tired face. Only then did Yi Fei feel relieved. He stood up and said, "Then Shirzuen, what should I do to save you?" The demon emperor raised 2 fingers and sternly said, "Disciple, you must fulfill 2 conditions. First, you must become a martial honor expert and comprehend at least 50% of the sword intent. Only then will you have the strength to enter the 2nd and 3rd levels of the demon sealing pagoda and find the stone coffin that sealed this old man." Only now did Yi Fei realize that the demon sealing pagoda had a total of 3 levels, and each level was guarded by a corresponding heroic spirit. He and Bai Ling had only entered the 1st level. "What's the 2nd condition?" Yi Fei asked. "Becoming a martial honor will only allow you to enter the demon sealing pagoda. If you want to break the seal of this old man's enemy, you must go to the Sea of Constellations and find the main body of the Spirit Devourer sword that this old man left there." The demon emperor said. Yi Fei was very surprised. He raised the Spirit Devourer sword in his hand and asked, "Master, isn't the Spirit Devourer sword here?" This old man was just bored. "I used the junk left behind by those martial honors to forge some random scrap metal. Its power isn't even 1/10,000th of the Spirit Devourer sword's main body." The demon emperor said, "Holy shit." Yi Fei never thought that the Spirit Devourer sword he treasured so much was actually a fake that the demon emperor had casually forged. He couldn't help but become interested in the Sea of Constellations. "Master, where is the Sea of Constellations?" "You don't need to know that. Your current mission is to cultivate as hard as you can for this old man and strive to reach the realm of a martial honor. Once you become a martial honor, you will naturally know what kind of place the Sea of Constellations is. All right, this strand of my spiritual consciousness is about to dissipate. If you want to leave, go to the end of the heroic spirit corridor. Silently say exit the pagoda, and the demon sealing pagoda will automatically teleport you out." By the time the demon emperor finished speaking, his body was already on the verge of collapsing. It was obvious that his spiritual consciousness had been severely damaged in order to help Yi Fei. Yi Fei hadn't reaped enough benefits yet. Seeing that the demon emperor was about to dissipate, he panicked. He seized this last moment to reap more benefits and said, "Master, please don't go. The Wu province I'm from has a deep grudge with the previous owner of the Spirit Devourer sword. If the Wu province finds out that I've obtained this sword, I might be in deep trouble." The demon emperor sneered, "A mere Wu province. You're nothing but an ant. My disciple, take these 2 items, one for your cultivation and the other for the Wu province. Not only will you be able to resolve your grudge, but you'll also be able to contribute greatly to the Wu province you're from." Whoosh, whoosh. The demon emperor's spiritual consciousness completely vanished. Then, 2 martial arts manuals fell into Yi Fei's hands. One was the Martial King's cultivation notes. The other was the demon emperor's scripture. "All right, my disciple. Master forgot to tell you. This demon emperor's scripture is Master's strongest cultivation technique. There are 3 volumes. The one you've obtained is only the 2nd volume. It's equivalent to the peak of the earth grade. If you want to obtain the 1st and 2nd volumes, you must cultivate quickly. Come to the demon sealing tower and find me." The demon emperor's final words came from the void. Hearing this, Yi Fei had the urge to curse out loud. Mother of asterisk her, the demon emperor is so shameless and stingy. He only gave me the 2nd volume of such a powerful cultivation technique. He was clearly trying to tempt Yi Fei to cultivate quickly so that he could break the seal of the demon sealing tower. However, seeing that the demon emperor had given him so many benefits and was also his master, Yi Fei chose to endure it in the end. "Master, don't worry. Once I become a martial venerable, I'll definitely come to the demon sealing tower to save you." Yi Fei shouted into the void, not caring if the demon emperor could still hear him. Bang! As the demon emperor's spiritual consciousness completely disappeared, The black light barrier that had enveloped Yi Fei also disappeared. Bai Ling was standing outside anxiously. It turned out that she had already refined the soul crystal. However, she realized that Yi Fei was completely shrouded in demonic qi. She had no idea what was happening inside. Yi Fei, are you all right? Did that senior hurt you? Bai Ling walked over to Yi Fei worriedly. Sister Bai, don't worry. Senior only wanted to talk to me privately about some matters. He didn't mean to harm us. I'd like to congratulate Senior Sister for upgrading your Dantian to the Black Grade. You'll be one of the top geniuses in Wu Province in the future, Yi Fei said with a smile. Bai Ling was also very happy. She looked at Yi Fei gratefully and said, Yi Fei, you don't have to call me Senior Sister anymore. Let's call each other brother and sister. You can call me Bai Ling or Sister Ling. Clearly, after going through so much together, Bai Ling was already very trusting and close to Yi Fei. She originally wanted Yi Fei to call her Ling, but after thinking about it, she realized that there was a big age gap between them. She really couldn't bring herself to call him Ling, so she just called him sister and brother. That's good. I'll have an elder sister from now on. Yi Fei smiled and nodded. He also changed his way of addressing her. That's right, Sister Ling. Before Senior left, he already told me how to leave the demon's ceiling tower. We can leave this place now. Chapter 76. Chapter 76. The odd job worker shows off two beams of white light flashed outside the forbidden grounds of Wu Province. Then, the figures of Yi Fei and Bai Ling appeared. This is a forbidden area in Wu Province. Yi Fei, we're finally out. When Bai Ling saw the familiar sky, she was so excited that she almost shed tears. She and Yi Fei might be the only ones to come out of the demon ceiling pagoda alive. All of this was thanks to Yi Fei. The way Bai Ling looked at Yi Fei also became more affectionate. There was even a hint of tenderness in his eyes. Yi Fei stared at the familiar sky, but his mood was completely different. He hadn't forgotten how he had entered the demon's ceiling tower, nor had he forgotten that the enemy who had plotted against him was probably somewhere in Wu Province right now, acting like a tyrant and thinking highly of himself. Killing intent appeared on Yi Fei's face. It's time for revenge. Whoever offends me, I'll pay them back tenfold. That Li Xian dared to put me and Sister Ling in such a desperate situation. I'm going to kill him now, Yi Fei said coldly. He lifted his foot and was about to walk into the inner part of Wu Province. Bai Ling hurriedly pulled him back and reminded him worriedly, Yi Fei, don't be rash. This is Wu Province. It's a serious crime for disciples to kill each other. Li Xian is the one at fault here. Don't worry, I'll go and find Master now and seek justice for us. You're coming with me. Bai Ling grabbed Yi Fei's hand and wanted to rush to his Shizuan's residence. Yi Fei hesitated for a moment before saying, Sister Spirit, the evil demon Sword King has a deep grudge with Wu Province. It's not convenient for me to carry his soul-devouring sword around. How about you go first? I'll go back to my residence and hide the soul-devouring sword. All right, it's best if you don't tell anyone about the Devil's Ceiling Tower, or else we'll be in big trouble. Yi Fei, do you think I'm the kind of person who can't keep my mouth shut? Don't worry, Bai Ling, will not mention the matter of the Devil's Ceiling Pagoda, and that's senior to anyone, not even my beloved master. Bai Ling knew that the reason they were able to leave the Demon Ceiling Tower so smoothly was probably because Yi Fei and the Demon King had reached some sort of agreement. Bai Ling had already decided to treat Yi Fei as his younger brother, so he naturally wouldn't betray Yi Fei. Then she saw that the soul-devouring sword on Yi Fei's back was indeed too conspicuous. Bai Ling solemnly promised him, Yi Fei, you can go back and hide the soul-devouring sword, but you have to promise me that you won't be impulsive. Wait for me and Shizuan to come and find you. Okay, I won't go anywhere. I'll wait for you in the dormitory. Yi Fei comforted Bai Ling with a smile. Bai Ling was finally relieved. She turned around and hurriedly rushed to the inner courtyard of Wu Province. Bai Ling was extremely angry about being framed this time. She wasn't an ordinary disciple who didn't have anyone to rely on. This time, no matter what Bai Ling said, she would definitely make Li Xian and the formation sect pay the price. However, Bai Ling didn't notice the flash of coldness in Yi Fei's eyes as she turned around. Sister Ling, I'm sorry. Instead of relying on the elders of Wu Province, I'd rather seek justice in my own way. Yi Fei walked back to the servant area of Wu Province without looking back. However, he didn't plan to wait here. He had to take revenge with his own hands. He had no grudges with the Formation sect. However, because of the conflict between the Formation sect and the Imperial family, he was sacrificed and used as a scapegoat. In the end, when they found out that he wasn't dead, these people actually wanted to kill him to silence him. This was something that he couldn't tolerate. Now, Yi Fei wanted to seek justice in his own way. He didn't directly break into the inner courtyard. After all, Wu Province was really too big. It wouldn't be easy to finally Xin. Yi Fei planned to borrow the strength of the servants of Wu Province. These servants might not be strong, but they were definitely the most well-informed. They would definitely know where Li Xian was. However, when he walked into the servant area, the scene inside shocked Yi Fei. He saw more than a dozen cavalrymen from the imperial city beating and kicking the servants in the courtyard. As the head of the servants, Lu Chong was even more miserable. He was hung up and beaten. The loud sound of leather whips made the servants, who weren't even martial masters, cry for their parents and beg for mercy. However, these martial masters from the imperial city just kept waving their whips and beating the servants indiscriminately. Yi Fei clearly saw a few servants vomiting blood and fainting after being whipped. However, these martial masters didn't stop. They just kept cursing and scolding. Servants who are worse than dogs. How dare you play dead? Hurry up and wake up. Keep shouting. Sir, please spare our lives. Spare our lives. We really don't know where Senior Brother Yi is. It's said that he hasn't come back since he left Wu Province. I guess he couldn't stand it and ran back home. Sir, it's useless even if you beat us to death. The servants cried and begged for mercy. Lu Chong, who was hung up, spat out a mouthful of blood when he heard this. He scolded, "Don't beg them. Who do they think they are? We don't know where Senior Brother Yi is. Even if we did, I don't believe that they would dare to beat us to death in Wu Province just because they humiliated us and trampled on our dignity. Haha, this errand boy is quite the backbone. Since you want to die, then we'll fulfill your wish. Continue to whip until you die. Let's see if the martial house will stand up for you errand boys. You servants are just like the servants in the imperial palace. Your lives are more worthless than dogs. You don't deserve dignity at all." The martial masters laughed maniacally. They were the overlords of the imperial city, so why would they care about the lives of a few odd job workers here? Seeing this, Yi Fei was furious. He walked in and shouted in a deep voice, "Everyone stop." As he spoke, Yi Fei had already rushed in. He kicked over several martial masters who were waving whips and put Lu Chong down from the tree. Mud is Yi Fei's ash? Instead of mud, you brought ash here? Lu Chong was beaten black and blue. He couldn't even speak clearly, but he still recognized Yi Fei at a glance. Lu Chong was shocked. He thought that Yi Fei left Wu Province to escape. He didn't expect Yi Fei to have the guts to come back. "That's right, I'm back. Lu Chong, you did well this time. You didn't betray me. Instead, you were implicated by me. Since that's the case, I'll help you get justice." Yi Fei sneered and looked at the martial masters in the imperial city. Although Lu Chong was tough, it was purely because he was indignant after his dignity was trampled on. He was also angry. In the end, Lu Chong didn't betray him. Yi Fei's view of Lu Chong had changed. Therefore, he didn't mind standing up for these servants. You're Yi Fei. You're a piece of trash. How dare you ruin the imperial family's plan instead of doing your job properly? Trash, get your ass over here and follow us to see the princess. The leader of the martial masters shouted. He looked at Yi Fei with contempt and disdain. Yi Fei said expressionlessly, "Get out of here. If the princess wants to see me, tell that crazy woman to get her ass over here." After he said that, Yi Fei stopped looking at the martial masters. He helped the servants who had been beaten up one by one and channeled his quintessential origin chi to help them heal. The martial masters of the imperial city, who had been completely ignored by Yi Fei, flew into a rage. "How dare you, unruly commoner! You've already become a piece of trash. How dare you talk to the princess like that? If the princess hadn't forbidden us from doing anything, we would have beaten you to death right now. Oomph. Why are you talking so much to a piece of trash? Let's just go over and slap him 100 times. Let's teach him how to talk to us. Damn it. How dare a useless servant like you attack us martial masters of the imperial city? We'll teach you a good lesson now. The martial masters who had been kicked down by Yi Fei stood up angrily and waved their hands. They were about to walk over and slap Yi Fei. Slap! Slap! However, Yi Fei wasn't the one getting slapped. Instead, it was Yi Fei who raised his hand and ruthlessly slapped the martial masters who had rushed over. He slapped them exactly 100 times, causing them to vomit blood and shatter their teeth. They fainted from the pain before they could even make a sound. Boom! Chapter 77. Chapter 77. Into the inner court, miserable screams resounded throughout the servant courtyard. Before the imperial city martial masters could recover from their shock, Yi Fei had already rushed forward angrily. He aimed at these people and started punching and kicking them. With Yi Fei's current 5th-level martial master, he had completely merged with the divine flame of the outer sky. His strength was more than 10 times stronger than before. These martial masters from the imperial city did not even have a chance to resist. They were slapped by Yi Fei and fell to the ground, screaming in pain. Those who were not pleasing to the eye had their limbs broken by Yi Fei on the spot. The odd job workers in the courtyard were shocked, and many of them widened their eyes. As an odd job worker, it was already very shocking that Yi Fei could break through to martial master. More importantly, Yi Fei was still so powerful. They were both odd job workers, so why was the gap between them so huge? Many odd job disciples lowered their heads in shame and swore to themselves that they would cultivate like crazy in the future. The martial masters who had fallen to the ground were furious. At the same time, they looked at Yi Fei in horror. Yi Fei, you are just a servant. How dare you hit the imperial cavalry? Are you and your family trying to rebel against the imperial family? Bang! Before that person could finish speaking, Yi Fei had already walked over with a furious expression. With a vicious kick, he broke all the bones in that person's body and sent him flying backwards while vomiting blood. Get lost, all of you. So what if you're from the royal family? This is Tianyin Wufu, not the imperial city. This is not a place where you can ride roughshod over others. Servants are not to be insulted. I will kill anyone who insults me. Yi Fei exuded a terrifying killing intent. When they sensed this murderous intent, the previously arrogant imperial city martial masters turned pale with fright. None of them dared to stay any longer. After all, they were only low-grade martial masters between the 1st and 3rd grade martial masters. They simply weren't a match for a mid-grade martial master like Yi Fei. Upon seeing this, the surrounding odd jobs disciples cheered happily. Many of them were grateful that Yi Fei had helped them out. Servants are not to be humiliated. Many of the odd job workers repeated this sentence. Yi Fei's words had undoubtedly struck a chord in everyone's hearts. Even Lu Chong felt warmth in his heart. He looked at Yi Fei with tears of gratitude and said, "Senior brother Yi, thank you for standing up for us. From now on, I, Lu Chong, and the handyman brothers in Wu province will listen to you, senior martial brother. We will do whatever you tell us to do. Yes, for senior brother Yi, we will go through water and tread on fire without hesitation." The odd job disciples shouted excitedly one after another. Even odd job workers had their own dignity. Yi Fei's words had helped them regain their dignity. These odd job workers subconsciously treated Yi Fei as their backbone. Yi Fei shook his head with a smile and said, "You don't have to go through water and tread on fire. However, I do have something to ask you. Do any of you know where that bastardly Xian is?" When he mentioned Li Xian, Yi Fei finally couldn't control himself. The murderous aura around him was almost tangible. Lu Chong wasn't stupid. He immediately understood that Yi Fei and Li Xian might have a big grudge against each other. Senior brother Yi, Wu province prohibits disciples from fighting in private. Lu Chong cautiously reminded him. But we are odd job workers. Yi Fei's rebuttal was quite sharp. Lu Chong was suddenly speechless. Then he thought of Yi Fei's current strength and the humiliation he had just received. Lu Chong gritted his teeth and said, "Senior Brother Yi, I know where Li Xine is. I can show you the way. Senior Brother Yi, we'll go with you and cheer for you." The surrounding odd job workers were also excited. They were also willing to support Yi Fei. Yi Fei couldn't refuse. He just nodded to Lu Chong and let him lead the way. Then Yi Fei, surrounded by more than a dozen odd job workers, walked towards the inner court of Wu Province. More and more odd job workers who received the news along the way joined in. When they really reached the gate of the inner court, there were no longer more than a dozen odd job workers behind Yi Fei. Instead, there were more than 100 odd job workers following behind Yi Fei, carrying spears and sticks. They were cheering for Yi Fei. Such a powerful scene naturally attracted the attention of the other disciples of Wu Province. The gate of the inner court was guarded by the outer court disciples. When they saw that the odd job workers, who they usually looked down on the most, were not only making trouble, but also trying to force their way into the inner court, they were all angry. "Stop, you odd job workers. Why are you all gathered here instead of working? Don't you know the rules of the inner court? Odd job workers and dogs are not allowed to enter." The outer court disciples guarding the gate were complacent. They had a good relationship with their senior brothers in the inner court. How could they care about a bunch of odd job workers who were making trouble? But they didn't know that this happened to trigger Yi Fei's anger. "Who made this rule?" Yi Fei stepped forward and asked. "It's senior brother Li Xin from the Formation faction." "Damn, you're the one who led these odd job workers to make trouble, aren't you? You got guts." An outer court disciple guarding the gate arrogantly tried to slap Yi Fei's face with his hand. Bang! Yi Fei didn't want to waste time talking nonsense. He kicked the man until he spat out blood and flew back. Then he pointed at the people in the inner court, turned around, and shouted to the odd job workers who followed him, "Brothers, odd job workers can't be humiliated. If you don't want to endure this kind of humiliation, beat them up and smash them. Let's see who dares to stop us. Senior Brother Yi, we'll listen to you. Beat them to death. Without odd job workers like us, you wouldn't be able to cultivate so comfortably. How dare you look down on us? Beat them up." The odd job workers had been angry for a long time. What they lacked was a leader. Now, Yi Fei was willing to stand up. With a backbone, the odd job workers roared angrily. They didn't care about anything else and swarmed forward. In an instant, they beat the outer court disciples until they cried for their parents. The other onlookers were so scared that their legs turned to jelly. Damn, are they really Wu Province's odd job workers? They don't care about their lives when they beat people up. Didn't you see who's leading the way? That's Yi Fei. I heard that he had some kind of fortuitous encounter and his strength improved by leaps and bounds. He's already a 5th grade martial master. Even the Imperial City Cavalry was beaten up badly by him. A well-informed disciple pointed at Yi Fei. When the news spread, the disciples who came to watch the show were all shocked. What? 5th grade martial master? He's just an odd job worker. How can his strength improve so much? Odd job workers are really heaven-defying. Oh no, look in the direction Yi Fei is going. That seems to be the Array faction. Oh my god, these odd job workers are crazy. They can't afford to offend anyone, but they actually dared to offend one of the top 3 sects in Wu Province. Many Wu Province disciples were deeply shocked when they saw the direction Yi Fei was going. Among the crowd, some disciples of the Array faction had already taken out their sound-transmitting talismans and sent messages to the Array faction. One could imagine how furious the disciples who were still cultivating in the Array faction were. As one of the top 3 sects in Wu Province, the Array faction had actually been attacked by a group of odd job workers. This was intolerable. All the disciples of the Array faction who had received the message had already rushed back to the Array faction. They crowded outside the mountain gate with angry faces and were ready to fight. At this time, Yi Fei had also brought a large group of odd job workers and countless disciples from other sects to the Array faction. When he saw the large group of Array faction disciples standing outside, Yi Fei frowned. He asked the odd job workers to stop temporarily and walk to the front alone. "Everyone, This matter has nothing to do with you. I'm here today to seek justice. Get Li Xian out here to see me. Impudent. A bunch of trash. Who do you think you are? How dare you ask our senior brotherly to come out and see you? How dare you bring people to cause trouble in the Array faction? You must have a death wish. One of the stronger disciples of the Array faction had already stepped out of the crowd angrily. Many of the odd job workers were so frightened that they took a few steps back. Oh no, that's Mu Lianqing from the Array faction. He's a 6th grade martial master and is ranked 2nd in the Array faction. This time, Yi Fei is going to suffer. He deserves it. As an odd job worker, how dare he cause trouble in the inner courtyard? Let's see how he'll die. Many people shook their heads and sighed when they saw that the Array faction had a super expert like Mu Lianqing. They thought that this farce had come to an end. Chapter 78. Life and Death Challenge Scram. Who do you think you are? What qualifications do you have to meet Senior Brotherly? You bunch of servants, scram back to your chores. If anyone dares to cause trouble, I'll get the elders to expel all of you. Mu Lianqing looked threateningly at the group of odd job workers behind Yi Fei. A few of the more cowardly odd job workers were so frightened that they sneaked away. However, most of the odd job workers, especially Lu Chong, who had received Yi Fei's favor, stood firmly on the spot and looked at Yi Fei. Clearly, the servants here only obeyed Yi Fei. Even the inner court seniors of Wu province couldn't order them around. Mu Lianqing was almost angered to death. He could only stare at Yi Fei and scold. Trash, didn't you hear what I said? I told you to scram from the Array sect. Who are you calling trash? Yi Fei took another step forward. I said it's you, and the servants behind you. Mu Lianqing was incomparably angry. Suddenly, his body moved and he charged at Yi Fei, preparing to take Yi Fei down in front of everyone. Boom! Yi Fei was too lazy to even move his sword. He directly raised his hand and released a resplendent sword light that also blasted towards Mu Lianqing. With just one sword, the 6th-stage martial master Mu Lianqing's expression changed drastically. He used all his strength to barely dodge it. In the end, the sword Qi pierced the huge stone tablet outside the Array sect's mountain gate. On the spot, the several thousand-kilogram stone tablet turned into a pile of dust. Who are you calling trash? Yi Fei asked again. Mu Lianqing's face alternated between green and white, but he couldn't say a word. He had been completely stunned by Yi Fei. If Yi Fei hadn't intentionally missed that sword Qi, it would have been enough to kill Mu Lianqing in one move. All the Array sect disciples present were so frightened that their eyeballs almost popped out. That stone tablet was carved out of a whole diamond. Even some elders found it difficult to shatter it, not to mention Yi Fei, who had turned it into dust with a single sword Qi. The surrounding disciples who were watching the show swallowed their saliva. The strength of this servant in front of them was truly heaven-defying. This is your last chance. Tell Li Xian to scram. Otherwise, I'll kill my way into your Array sect. Yi Fei stood with his hands behind his back. Bastard, a mere servant dares to be arrogant in our Array sect. Just you wait. I'll get Senior Li Xian to deal with you. Mu Lianqing. Yi Fei had Yi Fei's Yi Fei. He had Yi Fei's Array sect. Yi Fei had Yi Fei had have Yi Fei's 10 Yi Fei. Yi Fei that Yi Fei. Yi Fei had Yi that he of Yi have of Li of death. Of is matter is? Yi have Yi. Of Yi that? What's the matter with that trash? Why can't I kill him after sending him into the demon ceiling pagoda? How did he become so powerful? Li Xian's eyes were red with jealousy. After knowing Yi Fei's strength, how could he not know that not only was Yi Fei not killed by the demons in the demon ceiling pagoda, but he even came out with a huge increase in strength? Thinking of this, Li Xian was so jealous that he vomited blood on the spot. In a sense, he was the one who had helped Yi Fei achieve his goal. Senior Li Xian, Yi Fei asked you to go out. What do you think? Mu Lianqing's expression was ugly. No, tell him that I'm not here. Inform Master while you're at it. I don't believe that trash would dare to be impudent in front of Master. Li Xian roared with bloodshot eyes. Mu Lianqing looked at Li Xian with disdain. Even if Li Xion's foundation was damaged, he was still the #1 genius of the Array faction. Mu Yinxing could only obey. He couldn't be bothered with Yi Fei outside and ran to inform the Array faction's elder, Li Xiaotian, outside the Array faction's mountain gate. After waiting for a while, he didn't see Li Xian come out. Even Mu Yinxing didn't return. Yi Fei frowned slightly. He knew that Li Xian was most likely hiding or stalling for time to ask the elders for help. He wouldn't let Li Xian have his way. Lu Chong, senior brother Yi, let me know if you need anything. Lu Chong said respectfully. Bring all the servant disciples and scold him. The worse the scolding, the better. I want to see how long Li Xian can endure. Yi Fei said coldly. Did he think he could just hide? He had plenty of ways to force Li Xian out. Lu Chong wasn't careless either. They might not be good at fighting, but they were good at scolding people. Under Lu Chong's arrangement, the servants' scolding soon sounded outside the Array faction's mountain gate. Li Xian, you coward! You're the #1 genius of the Array faction. Now that you see our senior brother Yi, you're so scared that you don't dare to show your face. Bullshit #1 genius. You're more like the #1 turtle. Li Xian, you coward. If you have the guts, come out and fight with our senior brother Yi for 300 rounds. Senior brother Li Xian, stop hiding. We all know that you're so scared that you peed your pants. Hurry up and go home. Your mother wants you to go home and change your diapers. Pfft. Hearing such scolding, even Yi Fei broke out in a sweat, not to mention the disciples who were watching the show. They all laughed out loud. The disciples of the Array faction all looked embarrassed. As one of the 3 strongest factions in Wu province, they had never been scolded like this before. At this time, if Li Xian still didn't show up, not only would the disciples of Wu province look down on him, but the disciples of the Array faction would also laugh at Li Xian behind his back in the future. Roar! Inside the Array faction, Li Xian, who was about to pretend to be deaf and dumb, roared like a beast when he was insulted by the words, "Change your diapers." Then a figure ran out of the Array faction like a whirlwind. He stared at the servants around him with hatred and scolded, "You bunch of trash! Who was the one who scolded me? Come out and face your death." Yi Fei stared coldly at Li Xian and said, "What's wrong? Are you finally willing to come out after changing your diapers? Yi Fei, don't go too far. If you don't leave now, you'll become the enemy of the entire Array faction," Li Xian said with a ferocious look. Yi Fei laughed and shook his head. "I'm going too far. Don't tell me that you set a trap for me and asked Zhou Guang to trick me into going to the Fire Cloud Cave to be a scapegoat for the Array faction? Isn't that going too far? When you found out that I didn't die, you tried to kill me time and time again. Isn't that going too far? If someone offends me, I'll pay them back tenfold. Li Xian, since you tried to harm me first, don't blame me for being ruthless. Today, I'll ask you one thing. Do you want to kneel down and commit suicide, or do you want me to personally send you on your way?" Everyone was shocked. The disciples of Wu province, including the servants who came with Yi Fei, didn't expect that Yi Fei didn't just come to the Array faction to cause trouble. He even wanted to force Li Xian to commit suicide in front of everyone. How domineering! How arrogant! In the 1,000-year history of Wu province, they had never seen such a powerful servant disciple. For a moment, all eyes were on Yi Fei. Yi Fei walked toward Li Xian with a straight back and a murderous look on his face. With every step he took, the ground under his feet cracked a little. With every step he took, Li Xian's face became more ferocious. Finally, right when Yi Fei was 10 steps away from Li Xian was unable to maintain his silence any longer. A wisp of a savage smile flashed on his face as he spoke in a stern voice. "Trash, do you really think that I, Li Xian, am someone you can offend? Since you're courting death, then I'll send you on your way." Boom! The ground where Li Xian was standing suddenly shook. Then, a terrifying array with Li Xian as the center started operating rapidly. Chapter 79. Chapter 79, A Sword of Blood. Yi Fei die. True Yuan, soul-locking array. Boom! Boom! The ground continued to tremble. With each tremor, A strange chain formed from true essence would rush out from the ground and wrap around Yi Fei's body. As one of the three strongest sects in Wu province, the array formation sect's array formation was not only sharp, but also very strange. At the same time, array rune masters were also people that martial artists did not want to provoke the most. This was because every inscription master was not only very powerful, but most importantly, they could also set up all kinds of formations to kill their enemies. For example, the array that Li Xian had secretly set up this time was the fastest and most powerful entrapment array of the array faction, the True Essence Soul Locking Array. This kind of array formation could make full use of the terrain to form a strange true essence that bound Yi Fei's hands and feet, restricting Yi Fei's movements. Obviously, Li Xian was not really impulsive before he came out. He had fully considered that Yi Fei's most powerful swordsmanship. Now, he wanted to use this formation to restrict Yi Fei's movements. As long as Yi Fei could not use his sword, Li Xian had a very good chance of winning. The disciples of Wu province who saw this scene were smart people. When they saw that Yi Fei had stepped into the array set up by Li Xian without any precaution, many of them secretly shook their heads. The disciples of the array faction cheered. "Senior brother Li Xian, good job. Help us teach this arrogant guy a lesson." "Humph! A mere servant dares to be so arrogant in our array faction. He deserves to be taught a lesson by senior brother Li." "How can a lesson be enough? This piece of trash publicly blocked the entrance of our array faction and even humiliated me, the #1 genius of our array faction. If I don't kill him today, then where will the dignity of our array faction be? Where will my name, Li Xian, be?" Li Xian said proudly. When he saw Yi Fei bound by the quintessential origin chains and unable to move, Li Xian was completely relieved. Then, he decided to take advantage of this opportunity to kill Yi Fei once and for all. Li Xian sneered and said to Yi Fei in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Trash, do you think you're a match for me? Li Xian, just because you've improved your strength after coming out of the demon ceiling tower? I'll send you to hell right now." Then, he directly delivered a fatal blow to Yi Fei. However, his eyes were still greedily staring at the spirit-devouring sword on Yi Fei's back. Until now, Li Xian still believed that Yi Fei had become so strong because of the soul-devouring sword. Li Xian had always wanted to get this spirit-devouring sword. "It's over. Senior brother Yi is finished." It's a pity that we, the odd job disciples, finally managed to raise our heads with great difficulty, but in the future, we will be beaten back to our original state. Some of the odd job disciples were already sighing. They believed that Yi Fei, whose hands and feet were bound, was already a dead man. "Princess, this kid suddenly became so strong. Perhaps it's because of the extraterrestrial divine flame. Do you need me to save his life?" On a mountain peak not far away, a resolute middle-aged general in iron armor stood beside Zhao Yu and asked respectfully, "Not for the time being. This guy is so arrogant that he actually dares to ask me to meet him personally. I'd like to see if he really has the ability or if he's just arrogant and ignorant." Zhao Yu's face was covered with a veil, covering his beautiful face. He looked at Yi Fei with a complicated gaze, as well as a hint of curiosity. She wanted to see if Yi Fei could still maintain his usual domineering and arrogant attitude in the face of such a dangerous situation. Zhao Yu soon saw him. Yi Fei didn't know that his actions had attracted the attention of Princess Zhao Yu. His expression was calm as he slowly raised his arm. The quintessential origin energy in his body vibrated vigorously. Boom! The quintessential origin energy chains that wrapped around his body were instantly burned to smithereens by the violent divine flame vital energy in Yi Fei's body. Raging purple flames burned on Yi Fei's body. Finally, they formed a purple flaming sword chi that fiercely pierced towards the charging Li Xian. How can this be? This Yi Fei didn't even use a sword. He broke free of Li Xian's array just by relying on the quintessential origin energy in his body. Terrifying, this odd job disciple is too terrifying. What kind of cultivation technique does he practice? His body can even burn with flames. The disciples present were incomparably shocked. No one would have thought that Yi Fei would actually be able to break Li Xian's strongest array formation so easily. Li Xian was even more frightened. Demon, you must have practiced that demon's cultivation technique. I'm going to report you to the elders. Demon Yi Fei, you're finished. After saying this, Li Xian turned and ran. He couldn't forget Yi Fei's terrifying sword in the small forest. Seeing that the quintessential origin soul-locking array couldn't trap Yi Fei, Li Xian immediately lost his will to fight. Where do you think you're going? Li Xian, I've said that you only have two options today. You can either kill yourself or be killed by me. If I, Yi Fei, say it, then I'll do it. Kill. Without waiting for Li Xian to dodge, Yi Fei had already kicked out with his leg. He charged towards Li Xian like a gust of wind. The soul-devouring sword in his hand shone with a cold light as it shattered Li Xian's protective Vajra array. This sword also scared Li Xian out of his wits. One had to know that Yi Fei still needed to take the energy explosion pill to break his Vajra array when they were in the small forest. But now, Yi Fei didn't even need to use the energy explosion pill. The power of his casual sword was so terrifying. Don't kill me. I am a #1 genius of the Array sect. My master is the #1 cultivation imparting elder of the Array sect. If you dare to kill me, my master will definitely kill you as well. Li Xian cried out in fear. He was now completely afraid of Yi Fei. If possible, Li Xian would rather offend Princess Zhao Yu than offend a demon like Yi Fei. In just a few days, he could break through from the first level of the Martial Master Realm to the 5th level of the Martial Master Realm. This was even more terrifying than those geniuses. Li Xian already regretted provoking Yi Fei. He turned around and wanted to escape as far as possible. He even shouted loudly, "Master, save me! Save me! Evil creature, stop right now! Who dares to hurt my disciple?" Boom! A terrifying pressure came from the distant sky and directly pressed down on Yi Fei. It was the aura of a martial ancestor realm expert. Under the pressure of this aura, even if an ordinary martial master wasn't injured, they would definitely be so frightened that they wouldn't dare move. Yi Fei's expression was also very unsightly. He hadn't expected that this high-level elder would arrive so quickly. Now he had two choices. First, stop the attack and let the Wu province handle the matter. However, if he did that, the Wu province would very likely cover up for Li Xian and interrogate him about the evil Sword King and the Demon Sealing Pagoda. Second, kill Li Xian so that there would be no evidence, just like how Li Xian wanted to kill him to silence him. Kill. Without hesitation, Yi Fei thought of the attack in the small forest and the Demon Sealing Pagoda, where he almost died with Bai Ling. He instantly made a decision. He couldn't let Li Xian go. 13th sword style. Kill him. Boom. The bright sword light shone in all directions. This sword formed a sword light like a waterfall and instantly engulfed Li Xian, who turned around to escape. The surprise on Li Xian's face suddenly turned into despair and pain. "You're so cruel." Li Xian lowered his head and looked at the sword edge that pierced through his chest. His whole body was instantly blown into powder by the violent sword chi. Then, a white light was absorbed by the spirit-devouring sword. That was Li Xian's soul fragment that was devoured by the spirit-devouring sword before he died. This was Yi Fei's current strength. As soon as the demon sword appeared, blood splattered everywhere. Chapter 80. Chapter 80. The elders were furious. Many of the Wu province disciples who saw this scene were scared out of their wits. Yi Fei had actually dared to kill someone in front of an elder. The scariest thing was that the person Yi Fei had killed was not just anyone, but the disciple that the elder of Wu province thought highly of. He was also one of the top 10 geniuses of the Array faction and even the entire Wu province. Shock and fear were not enough to describe the feelings of the disciples of Wu province. This result was too unexpected and too crazy. When Yi Fei had killed his way into the inner court and blocked the entrance of the Array sect, Everyone had thought that Yi Fei and this group of odd-job disciples had only felt wronged and wanted to vent their frustrations. Who would have thought that Yi Fei would actually dare to kill a martial arts grandmaster right in front of them? This was simply a ruthless slap to the martial great sect's face. In particular, Yi Fei's sword was extremely resplendent and powerful. He was so powerful that Li Xiaotian, who was still far away, couldn't help him in time. He could only watch as Yi Fei pierced Li Xian's body with the demonic sword. Then, Yi Fei shook the demon sword again, letting Li Xiaotian see with his own eyes how Li Xian's body exploded into pieces. This was a form of revenge, but it was also a form of provocation, a provocation toward the martial arts sect. Xianer, Li Xiaotian let out an incomparably furious roar. He flew over with a monstrous aura. Originally, he wanted to save the lives of his nephew and disciple, Li Xian. In the end, he couldn't even collect Li Xian's corpse. Yi Fei's sword was too ruthless. It was so ruthless that Li Xiaotian, an elder, was so angry that his face turned sinister. His entire body was in pain. "You're Yi Fei." Li Xiaotian stared at Yi Fei like an evil wolf. "That's right, I am Yi Fei. I was used as a scapegoat by you and your disciple." Yi Fei replied coldly, "Bastard, it's not enough that you killed my disciple. How dare you accuse me and use you as a scapegoat? You're just an odd-job worker. You're even worse than an ant. I'll use you." Li Xiaotian's voice was stern. His ability to feign ignorance was already at its peak. Those who didn't know better would really think that Li Xiaotian and Li Xian were the victims and Yi Fei was the evil murderer. However, what Li Xiaotian did not expect was that the soul fragments swallowed by the spirit-devouring sword before Li Xian's death had already exposed everything. Why did Yi Fei insist on killing Li Xian? Besides the fact that Li Xian deserved to die, he wanted to use the soul-devouring sword to kill Li Xian and obtain Li Xian's memories. Although this method was somewhat risky, he still managed to obtain it. In Li Xian's soul fragments, not only did he clearly remember the process of him instructing Wang Liang to find a scapegoat, but he also clearly knew which big shot in the imperial city Li Xiaotian had colluded with. Looking at Li Xiaotian pretending to be sad, Yi Fei suddenly felt a burst of laughter. However, his smile was incomparably cold. "Li Xiaotian, you don't have to act anymore. You and your disciple colluded with the crown prince to seize the power of Wu province. It has nothing to do with me. However, you and your disciple bullied me because I have no backing and wanted to use me as a scapegoat. That's a big mistake. Let me tell you, odd-job workers are not to be humiliated. Even if you're an ant, you can't bear our anger." Nonsense. Li Xiaotian was extremely shocked. Only he and his closest disciple, Li Xian, knew about his collaboration with the crown prince. No one else knew about it. Now that Yi Fei had said it in public, it undoubtedly made Li Xiaotian even angrier. He didn't want to say too much to Yi Fei at all. Li Xiaotian suddenly pointed at Yi Fei furiously and shouted, "Evil creature, is the sword in your hand the evil Sword King's sword? So what if it is? So what if it isn't?" Yi Fei couldn't deny it. After all, the grudge between Wu province and the evil Sword King was too deep. He couldn't hide the fact that he had taken the sword back. The only thing Yi Fei was glad about was that in Li Xian's memories, he didn't tell Li Xiaotian that he had used the demon-sealing pagoda to harm people due to his guilty conscience. This way, Yi Fei wouldn't have to waste too much effort. As long as he and Bai Ling didn't say anything, then no one would know that he and Bai Ling had entered the demon-sealing pagoda and even met the Demon King inside. The soul-devouring sword. As expected, it was this demonic sword that killed this old man's disciple and nephew. Yi Fei, since you have this sword, then needless to say, you must have also obtained the inheritance of that evil demon. Tell me, did you cultivate an evil technique to increase your strength and then kill Li Xian? Li Xiaotian's voice was like muffled thunder. He was even more furious. If it were someone else who dared to kill his disciple, Li Xiaotian would have already cut that person into pieces. However, Yi Fei was different. Yi Fei had a younger sister who was cultivating in the Holy Land. If it weren't for the fact that he had committed a heinous crime, even Li Xiaotian wouldn't dare to kill Yi Fei in public. Therefore, Li Xiaotian planned to frame Yi Fei with the crime of cultivating an evil demonic cultivation method, and the Holy Lands and evil demons had always been sworn enemies. Old thing, don't think that I don't know what you're trying to do. Let me tell you, I killed Li Xian with my own strength. I didn't cultivate an evil technique at all. Could it be that only your disciple is allowed to kill me, but I'm not allowed to kill him? Li Xian wanted to kill me just now. Everyone here saw it with their own eyes. Yi Fei said with a cold smile. Li Xiaotian knew how to gain sympathy. Why couldn't he do the same? Moreover, when Li Xian wanted to kill Yi Fei just now, it was indeed in front of everyone's eyes. Everyone's eyes were sharp, and naturally they could see that. Many people subconsciously wanted to nod, but after that, they felt a gaze that was like a poisonous snake sweeping past them. Li Xiaotian's cold gaze swept across the crowd in an instant. His aura as a martial arts grandmaster caused all the disciples present to spit out blood. Their faces turned pale as they hurriedly retreated. No one dared to speak up for Yi Fei at this moment. An even more terrifying aura came from Li Xiaotian, a martial arts grandmaster, and directly pressed down on Yi Fei. That overwhelming pressure would probably cause an ordinary martial master to faint immediately. Even though Yi Fei had completely merged with the extraterrestrial divine flame and was 10 times stronger than an ordinary 5th-grade martial master, he still felt so uncomfortable in his chest that he wanted to vomit blood. However, Yi Fei didn't vomit blood. He didn't have the habit of bowing down to his enemies. That was his personality. He would become stronger when he met a strong opponent. A sword would rather break than bend. This thought suddenly flashed across Yi Fei's mind. Then, he actually forcibly resisted the pressure and stood up straight. He shouted loudly, "Old man, is this all you've got? Do you think that by suppressing everyone, you can cover up the fact that you colluded with the crown prince, betrayed Wu province, and killed everyone to silence them?" Boom! It was earth-shattering. If it was said that everyone had doubts about Yi Fei's words just now, at this time, when they saw Li Xiaotian's performance of forcibly suppressing them, the disciples present all raised their heads in horror and cast a suspicious look at Li Xiaotian. "Well done, Li Xiaotian. You were the one who had been causing trouble and ruining my plans all this time." Zhao Yu's cold, angry voice rang out from afar. Yi Fei finally realized that Princess Zhao Yu had recovered at some point. She had even stood aside and watched the show for a long time. However, he didn't even have time to turn around. Instead, his expression changed drastically. Princess Zhao Yu had appeared at an inopportune time. Perhaps she had wanted to rush over and interrogate Li Xiaotian, but she didn't know that Li Xiaotian's emotions were at their most unstable right now. Li Xian's death had already infuriated Li Xiaotian. Now that Yi Fei had exposed his scheme in front of so many people, especially Zhao Yu, the enraged Li Xiaotian instantly made a vicious decision. He would kill Yi Fei before Zhao Yu and Wu province had any concrete evidence. Then, the dead would tell no tales. "Aunt, shut your mouth for this old man." As a disciple of the martial house, not only did you harm your fellow disciples, you even dare to spout nonsense and slander this old man's innocence. Needless to say, you evil creature must have cultivated some demonic cultivation method that has confused your mind. Your Highness, please wait for this old man to kill this demonic Yi Fei and then come back to apologize. Boom! Chapter 81. Sword Wu Province Demon, die for this old man. Li Xiaotian was filled with rage as he opened his 5 fingers. Each of his 5 fingers emitted a dense black light. Array Faction Palm Technique, 5-finger peak. 5 streaks of black light were released from Li Xiaotian's hands like 5 swords, piercing towards Yi Fei's body. Before he even arrived, his terrifying aura had already made many people feel as if they had just walked through the gates of hell. Is this the strength of a martial ancestor? You are indeed powerful, but you're still not qualified to kill me, Li Xiaotian. Kill. 13 sword styles. Boom. Terrifying sword light appeared on Yi Fei's body again. This time, he didn't hold back. He completely activated the divine fire vital energy in his body in his strongest move, the 13th sword style. The terrifying sword light almost cut through the void and slashed toward Li Xiaotian, who was rushing over. Li Xiaotian was extremely disdainful. He sneered and stretched out his hand. With a crack, he actually grabbed Yi Fei's sword light with his bare hands and crushed it with brute force. As expected of a martial arts grandmaster expert, he actually crushed such a terrifying sword light with his bare hands. Just wait and see. That Yi Fei is dead for sure this time. No matter how powerful he is, it's impossible for him to fight someone who's a whole realm above him. Look, Elder Li's going to kill him. Mount Wuji is about to fall. This Yi Fei is finished. Li Xiaotian crushed the sword light with one hand, while his other hand was still in the shape of the five-finger peak. He slammed it toward Yi Fei's head with great force. Evil creature, today I will enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and kill you, you evil demon. Li Xiaotian didn't forget to slander Yi Fei as he attacked. Old dog, do you think you can win just because you crush my sword light? Take this. Devouring sword intent. Yi Fei's face was cold as he raised the devouring soul sword in his hand again. The 13th sword style from before was just a feint. Yi Fei's real killer move was the devouring sword intent. If that didn't work, he still had the undying sword soul. However, the undying sword soul was his last trump card. Yi Fei would not use it so easily. Therefore, Yi Fei had only unleashed 10% of the devouring sword essence that he had comprehended. The terrifying sword radiance exploded from Yi Fei. The astonishing sword intent not only cut the space around Yi Fei, but also cut the space around him. At the same time, all the nearby Wu province disciples who were carrying swords were shocked to find that their swords were no longer under their control. They flew out of their own accord, and under the control of Yi Fei, they formed hundreds of terrifying sword lights and bombarded Li Xiaotian crazily. Boom! Boom! The continuous sword light smashed onto Li Xiaotian's body. This was definitely something that Li Xiaotian had not expected. He was forced to stop attacking Yi Fei. Suppression of the five peaks. Li Xiaotian roared angrily. His entire palm formed the shadow of five peaks as he tried to smash all the flying swords. However, Yi Fei did not give Li Xiaotian the chance to do so. 13th sword style. The soul-devouring sword in Yi Fei's hand charged towards Li Xiaotian in an extremely violent posture along with countless sword lights. The terrifying 13-fold critical strike was unleashed in one breath. How dare you, you vile being! Li Xiaotian roared angrily. However, his body was still forced back a few steps by Yi Fei's sword. A martial ancestor realm elder had actually been forced back by a 5th-grade martial master disciple. Everyone was deeply shocked. They looked at Yi Fei with astonishment and fear. What happened just now? Why did our swords not listen to our commands and attack elderly on their own? Powerful. He's too powerful. When did a servant from Wu province become so powerful? He could even force an elder back with a single sword strike. What kind of sword technique was that? It's so powerful. If Yi Fei was a little stronger, would he really be able to challenge an elder? Not only were the disciples of the martial house shocked, even Princess Zhao Yu, who had rushed over from afar, widened her eyes. Her beautiful face revealed an expression of disbelief. Was that sword intent? How could he have comprehended sword intent? Zhao Yu looked at Yi Fei in shock. Yi Fei's expression was very calm, but his body felt like it was being overturned. Others had only seen the glory of him forcing back the elder with one sword strike. Who would have thought that in order to release that sword strike, he had used up all the quintessence in his body? In the end, he had only forced Li Xiaotian back with a single sword strike. He hadn't hurt him at all. Yi Fei couldn't help but sigh heavily. It seems that I've overestimated myself. With my current strength, I might still have a chance of winning against a 10th-grade martial master. However, against a martial ancestor realm expert, even with sword intent, I have no chance of winning. Do I really have to use the immortal sword soul again? Yi Fei's heart sank. Although the immortal sword soul was powerful, it was risky to expose it. Moreover, he couldn't be sure that he could kill Li Xiaotian if he activated the power of the immortal sword soul. In the end, his current strength was still too low. Sword intent? How could it be sword intent? You bastard! How could you say that you didn't cultivate an evil technique? If you didn't cultivate an evil technique, how could trash like you possibly comprehend sword intent? Li Xiaotian roared and charged towards Yi Fei once again. When he realized that Yi Fei had comprehended sword intent, he became even more determined to kill him. Otherwise, if he allowed Yi Fei to grow, he would become another invincible evil demon sword king, bullying the weak. Old dog, you are indeed despicable. How could Yi Fei not see that Li Xiaotian wanted to kill him? However, he couldn't do anything about it. With his current strength, he was indeed no match for a martial ancestor realm expert. Yi Fei's expression was very ugly. He was already considering whether to reveal his final trump card, the undying sword soul. Suddenly, another terrifying sword light came from the distant horizon and slashed straight at Li Xiaotian. Li Xiaotian was shocked and hurriedly dodged to the side. Boom! The sword light finally left a deep ravine in the area between Yi Fei and Li Xiaotian. Li Xiaotian looked as if he was facing a great enemy. He stared at the two figures in the sky and roared, "Chen Chongfeng, you dare to stop me from killing this evil demon." What evil demon? Li Xiaotian, have you gone senile? How many years has it taken for a disciple to comprehend sword intent to appear in my martial house? If you dare to harm a single hair on his head, you'll have to ask the sword in my hand first. Boom! The sword light whistled. Elder Chun held the edgeless heavy sword in one hand and grabbed by Ling in the other. He quickly flew over from the sky and made it clear that he wanted to protect Yi Fei. The corners of Yi Fei's mouth also revealed a relaxed smile. The Devil Emperor was right. As long as he revealed his sword intent, the elders of the martial house would definitely choose to protect him, even if it meant turning the world upside down. Even if others wouldn't, the sword master and Bai Ling's master would definitely do something. The only thing that made Yi Fei a little unhappy was that Elder Chun had come a little late. Fortunately, the secret of the immortal sword soul was kept and not exposed. This was a great fortune in the midst of misfortune. Chapter 82. The governor arrives in person. Chen Chongfeng, get out of the way. This vile creature has cultivated an evil technique and has become a demon. Today, I will enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and kill this vile creature. Li Xiaotian roared. He refused to give up. As long as there was a chance, he would kill Yi Fei. Nonsense, Li Xiaotian. Do you have any proof that Yi Fei is a demon? Elder Chen stood in place coldly. He had no intention of backing down. Talents were hard to come by, and those who could comprehend sword intent were even rarer. Li Xiaotian's face was ferocious. You want proof? That's easy. Look at this vile creature. He's holding a demonic sword. If he hadn't cultivated an evil technique, how could trash like him break through to the 5th grade martial master realm so quickly and force me back with a single sword strike? The disciples of Wu province nodded when they heard this. Yi Fei had mistakenly entered the Fire Cloud Cave and had his meridians destroyed. This was a rumor in the outer yard. However, not only had Yi Fei not been destroyed, but his strength had also improved by leaps and bounds. He could even comprehend the legendary sword intent. This was a mystery in itself. Chen Chongfeng didn't dare to be negligent. He quickly turned his head and looked into Yi Fei's eyes. Yi Fei, elderly said that you've cultivated an evil technique. Is that true? Yi Fei understood that Chen Chongfeng's appearance meant that he had his back. He didn't hold back. He pointed at Li Xiaotian and scolded him. This old dog is just spouting nonsense. If I've cultivated an evil technique, why would I come back to Wu province? This old dog is just biting at random. Master, I can also testify that Yi Fei hasn't cultivated an evil technique. He has had a fortuitous encounter. Bai Ling also stood up and spoke up for Yi Fei. Elder Chen nodded with satisfaction. He sneered and said, Elderly, you heard it too. Yi Fei doesn't practice any demonic arts, so he's a disciple of Wu province and should be protected. As an elder, you're bullying a disciple. Don't you feel ashamed? Li Xiaotian roared angrily. What disciple? He's just a trash who does odd jobs. How dare he kill my favorite disciple and nephew? This old man must beat this trash to death today. As he spoke, Li Xiaotian raised his aura to its peak. He planned to bypass Elder Chun and kill Yi Fei. Li Xiaotian, how dare you? I'm going to protect Yi Fei today. Elder Chin's body emitted a terrifying sword will. The two martial arts grandmasters were locked in a fierce battle. Their terrifying auras formed layers of hurricanes that swept out in all directions. However, both of them were martial arts grandmasters. They were the leaders of the Sword Sect and the Array Sect, respectively. Their strengths were on par. The two of them fought until the sky turned dark. It was impossible to determine the winner in a short time. In the end, they fought from the ground to the sky. The disciples of Wu province were amazed. Yi Fei was even more fascinated. Was this a battle between martial arts grandmasters? He believed that he would be able to reach this level soon. After dozens of rounds, they were still evenly matched. Li Xiaotian saw that he couldn't avoid Chun Chongfeng's entanglement. He immediately threatened, Chun Chongfeng, do you really want to provoke a fight between the Array Sect and the Sword Sect over a mere odd job worker? Humph. We sword cultivators are all magnanimous. We're not like you, old man. You even dared to harm my disciple. Li Xiaotian's face turned ugly. Although Li Xian didn't dare tell him that he had used the demon sealing pagoda to harm people, he still told Li Xiaotian about his encounter with Bai Ling, seeing that there was no use in trying to cover it up. Li Xiaotian's eyes flashed with resentment. He suddenly shouted at the people of the Array faction, Disciples of the Array faction, listen to my orders. Attack and kill the evil Yi Fei. From now on, the Array Sect and the Sword Sect are sworn enemies. Chen Chongfeng was enraged when he heard this. He also shouted, So be it, Li Xiaotian. As an elder of Wu province, you colluded with outsiders and betrayed the interests of Wu province. Today, I will take you to the prefecture master to be judged. Disciples of the Sword Sect, listen up. Anyone who stands in the way of the Array Sect will be killed. Kill, kill. The disciples of the Sword Sect, who were watching the battle, all stepped forward, ready to fight the Array Sect. Kill, kill. The disciples of the Array Sect didn't show any signs of weakness. They didn't step forward. Instead, they formed groups of a few or a dozen people and began to quickly set up arrays, ready to fight the Sword Sect. The disciples of the other sects were stunned. They didn't know which side to stand on, or whether they should just avoid this chaotic battle. Yi Fei was also very depressed. He had come here purely to seek revenge on Li Xian and seek justice at the same time. He didn't expect that his actions would trigger a chaotic battle between the Array Sect and the Sword Sect. At the same time, on a mountain peak in the distance, two figures were shocked when they saw this scene. Nonsense. This is simply nonsense. What do the Sword Sect and the Array Sect think of Wu province as? Are they trying to divide Wu province? The person who spoke was Old Wu, one of the top experts in Wu province. He was also the deputy prefecture master and had more power than the elders of the various sections. At this moment, Old Wu could only stand behind an old man angrily. The old man was wearing a long gray robe. His eyes were cloudy and his body was hunched. He looked like he had 1 foot in the grave. Only his eyes were shining brightly. Unlike Old Wu, this old man didn't care about the chaotic battle between the Array Sect and the Sword Sect at all. Instead, he stared at Yi Fei with bright eyes. When he saw the soul-devouring sword in Yi Fei's hand, the old man's eyes were filled with shock, hatred, and understanding. It's really that demonic sword. No wonder. For the past 200 years, the royal family has been constantly pressuring Wu province. Who would have thought that the evil Sword King would place his tomb near our Wu province and even be found by this servant disciple? The old man sighed. Senior brother, now is not the time to sigh. If you don't show up, our Wu province will soon have internal strife, Old Wu said with a wry smile. While they were talking, the disciples of the Sword Sect and the Array Sect had already started fighting on the spot. Sister Ling, should we go and help? Yifei looked at Bai Ling. He wasn't a disciple of the Sword Sect, but Elder Chun was willing to use the entire Sword Sect to protect him. Because of this, Yifei couldn't just stand by and do nothing. As for Bai Ling, she was a disciple of the Sword Sect. A few days ago, she and Yifei were almost killed by the Array Sect's array in the Demon Ceiling Tower. Bai Ling naturally didn't mind continuing to cause trouble for the Array Sect. After looking at each other, Yifei and Bai Ling rushed towards the disciples of the Array Sect at almost the same time. At this moment, stop! An old and dignified voice came from afar. The voice was very calm, but it sounded like thunder in everyone's ears. Those who were still fighting couldn't help but vomit blood. Yifei also felt the blood in his body surging. Then, he was shocked to find that not only the disciples who were fighting were vomiting blood. Elder Chun and Li Xiaotian, who were in the sky, also vomited blood at the same time. They were actually suppressed by this voice and fell from the sky to the ground. Then, without saying a word, Elder Chun had already knelt down on one knee in ecstasy. He looked at the old man who suddenly appeared in the sky and said, "Academy Master, you've finally come out of seclusion." Academy Master, why you've actually come out of seclusion? Li Xiaotian trembled all over and hurriedly knelt down on one knee with a guilty conscience. Then the disciples of the Sword Sect, the Array Sect, and the disciples and elders of the other sects all knelt down respectfully when they saw the old man. There were only two people present who didn't kneel. One was Princess Xiaoyu. As a princess of the royal family, she naturally didn't need to kneel to the Academy Master. The other was, of course, Yifei. He had his own pride. During the 3 years he was crippled, Yifei had already sworn that he would kneel to his parents and elders for the rest of his life. Chapter 83. Dissolve a grudge. When the mansion master appeared, everyone present knelt down except for Yifei. This surprised many people. Xiaoyu also gave Yifei a strange look. However, she didn't say anything and continued to observe. Her country-toppling face was incomparably cold. No one knew what this princess was thinking. Li Xiaotian, who had been worrying about the manor head's appearance, was now ecstatic. He stood up and angrily pointed at Yifei and scolded, "Valspawn, you've cultivated a demonic cultivation technique. Have you forgotten the basic respect for seniority? The manor head is here in person, and even us elders have to kneel. What right do you have to stand there as a mere servant?" Even now, Li Xiaotian did not forget to accuse Yifei of being an evil demon. This way, he would have sufficient reason to kill Yifei. One had to admit that Li Xiaotian's intentions were truly sinister. If it was not for the fact that he could not defeat a Wu Zong, Yifei would have killed this person with his sword. But he couldn't. Yifei had no choice but to resist this impulse. He was too lazy to pay attention to Li Xiaotian. He turned his face to the side and still had no intention of kneeling down. Many of the elders from Wu province didn't look too good. The old man in the sky also frowned slightly, as if he hadn't expected Yifei to be so hostile towards Wu province. Old Wu's face clearly showed a hint of displeasure. He stared at Yifei and asked, "Disciple Yifei, the mansion master has personally arrived. Why aren't you kneeling and greeting him?" "Elder Wu, it's not that Yifei doesn't want to kneel. I think he's just too shocked and hasn't come back to his senses yet. Yifei, this is our Tianyan Wufu's prefecture chief and deputy prefecture chief. Hurry up and greet them." Elder Chen secretly gave Yifei a look. Because Yifei had comprehended sword intent, Elder Chun had already taken Yifei to be a member of the Sword Sect. So, Elder Chun naturally had to take special care of his own people. Yifei understood that Elder Chun had good intentions, and he was grateful to the Sword Sect for its help. However, Yifei still shook his head and said, "Elder Chun, I appreciate your good intentions, but I can't kneel." His words were resolute and decisive. His words caused everyone in the martial house to be shocked. He actually didn't kneel. As a disciple of Wu province, he actually didn't kneel in front of the governor. What kind of joke was this? Even Elder Chin's expression didn't look too good. He thought that Yi Fei was too disrespectful. "Why aren't you kneeling?" The old man was slightly shocked. He looked deeply at Yi Fei, as if he wanted to see through Yi Fei's heart. However, Yi Fei was no ordinary teenager. He was not afraid at all. He also stared at the old man in the sky and said loudly, "Because Wu province betrayed me." There was an uproar. As a disciple, Yi Fei actually dared to say such crazy things. Wu province betrayed him? What kind of reason was this? Many of the elders had obvious expressions of anger on their faces. Li Xiaotian was pleasantly surprised. He had thought that he had lost the chance to kill Yi Fei when the governor had appeared. Now that Yi Fei had said this, Li Xiaotian finally found a reasonable excuse to attack Yi Fei. "How disgraceful! You are just a lowly servant. How dare you say such arrogant words in front of the governor? Today I, Li Xiaotian, will represent the governor and beat you to death, you disrespectful little devil." After saying that, Li Xiaotian had already jumped up and tried to rush towards Yi Fei at a speed faster than anyone else. However, a figure blocked Li Xiaotian's path at the fastest speed possible. He even smashed the protective array formation on Li Xiaotian's body with a palm strike. "Wah, old Wu, even you want to stop me?" Li Xiaotian roared angrily. The person who had attacked was none other than old Wu. He was an expert second only to the governor in Wu province. Old Wu did not explain when he heard this. He did not even look at Li Xiaotian. He just stared coldly at Yi Fei and asked, "Disciple Yi Fei, how did I, Tianyan Wufu, betray you? Tell us, and we will uphold justice for you. If you can't, don't blame me for being rude." Old Wu's voice was very cold. It was as if a cold wind was blowing. Ordinary disciples would be so scared that they would not be able to speak when they heard this voice. However, Yi Fei's heart was already burning with anger. He pointed at Li Xiaotian in disgust and sneered, "How did you betray me? Don't tell me that you're still going to protect this old dog. If it weren't for him, I would have been tricked into the fire cloud cave and almost become a scapegoat. If it weren't for him, my meridians would have been burned by the extraterrestrial divine fire, and I would have been crippled. What about you? You knew that I was framed, but you still demoted me to a servant and left me to fend for myself. Aren't you betraying me? More than 10 days ago, I finally managed to recover from my injuries and return to Wu province. It was also this old dog who ordered Li Xian to ambush me outside the city. He wanted to silence me. Isn't Wu province betraying me?" These words had been bottled up in Yi Fei's heart for a long time. Now that he had spoken them all out, Yi Fei suddenly felt refreshed. There was irrefutable evidence for all of this, and Li Xiaotian couldn't deny it at all. After Yi Fei finished speaking, the elders of the martial house were all enraged. "Elderly, so you were the one who did that thing in the Fire Cloud Cave? How dare you betray Wu province?" Many elders, who were unaware of the truth, were furious. "No, I didn't betray Wu province. The Evil Sword King is a great enemy of Wu province. I just didn't want that evil thing to be discovered and cause misery and suffering." Li Xiaotian tried his best to whitewash himself. Speaking of shamelessness, this person could be considered to have reached the peak of shamelessness. Unfortunately, none of the elders present were fools. The old man in the sky did not give Li Xiaotian a chance to continue speaking. A terrifying pressure descended on him like a huge mountain. Li Xiaotian spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. He could not stand and could only lie on the ground, unable to move. Yi Fei's heart trembled violently. As expected, this old man was definitely the strongest person in Wu province to be able to become the provincial master. He wondered if the provincial master had broken through to the martial venerable realm. Just a wave of pressure was enough to make him a first-stage martial ancestor, unable to move. Li Xiaotian was completely terrified. His face was full of fear as he hurriedly lay on the ground and begged for mercy. "Provincial master, please spare my life." Li Xiaotian, "How many times have I spared your life?" The old man in the sky said angrily. He wanted nothing more than to crush Li Xiaotian to death on the spot. However, the old man suppressed his anger in the end and announced expressionlessly, "As an elder, Li Xiaotian colluded with outsiders and betrayed Wu province. He also did such a disgraceful thing as bullying a disciple. This is unforgivable. From now on, I announce that Li Xiaotian will be stripped of his position as an elder. He will never be able to regain it. He will also be punished to face the wall for 30 years. Do any of you have any objections? After witnessing the provincial master's power of suppressing a martial ancestor, none of the elders dared to object. They all nodded and said, "Provincial master is wise. We have no objections." The old man nodded with satisfaction. He looked at Yi Fei and said, "Disciple Yi Fei has been wronged. Wu province has indeed let him down. I have decided to make an exception and open the soul gathering pool to Yi Fei in advance. Yi Fei, do you have any objections to this punishment?" Yi Fei was stunned when he heard the old man's words. Li Xiaotian had almost killed him. Now he was being stripped of his position as an elder. This punishment was too light. Yi Fei was about to raise an objection when suddenly, Elder Chen's extremely agitated voice rang in his ears. "Boy, don't be stubborn anymore. You're in luck this time. The Soul Gathering Pool is the third most forbidden area in Wu Province. Normally, only the top disciple on the Wind Cloud list can enter the Soul Gathering Pool to improve the quality of his Dantian. What are you unhappy about?" Yi Fei's eyes lit up when he heard Elder Chen's words. There is a Soul Gathering Pool in Wu Province that could improve the quality of one's Dantian. No wonder everyone wanted to enter Wu Province to cultivate. Just the cultivation resources alone were enough to make one speechless. Yi Fei also felt that the quality of his Xian rank level 1 Dantian was too low. He might be considered a genius in Wu Province, but in the eyes of the Holy Land and the Demon King, his Dantian was trash. If I want to become stronger, I have to improve the quality of my Dantian. As for that Li Xiaotian, it won't be too late to deal with him when I become a martial ancestor. Understanding this point, Yi Fei naturally did not raise any objections. Instead, he took a step forward and was about to agree when a clear and cold voice suddenly interrupted him at this moment. "Wait, I have an objection." Chapter 84. Notes of a martial king princess. Zhao Yu's objection was within Yi Fei's expectations. After all, even though he had been framed for entering the Fire Cloud Cave, he had still swallowed the extraterrestrial divine fire that should have belonged to Zhao Yu. Yi Fei didn't need to guess to know that Zhao Yu must have suspected that he had used the extraterrestrial divine fire to successfully enter the evil Demon Sword King's secret realm and obtain the Sword King's inheritance. However, Yi Fei couldn't explain this matter at all. He couldn't possibly reveal the secret of the undying sword soul. Fortunately, the Demon King had already helped him think of a foolproof plan before he left the Demon Sealing Tower. Seeing Zhao Yu's objection, Yi Fei wasn't afraid at all. The Palace Lord tried to persuade Zhao Yu tactfully. "Your Highness, you've heard the confrontation just now about the Fire Cloud Cave. It has nothing to do with Yi Fei. It was completely Li Xiaoyan's own decision. This old man has already punished him. Princess, what else are you dissatisfied with?" Princess Zhao Yu wouldn't buy it just like that. She glared fiercely at Yi Fei and said, "Palace Lord, you're clearly avoiding the important matter and dwelling on the trivial. Even if this guy was framed, he still swallowed my extraterrestrial divine fire." And Zhao Yu thought about how Yi Fei had barged in and seen her bathing. Her beautiful face flushed red, and she quickly changed the topic and continued, "I also relied on the extraterrestrial divine fire to obtain the Sword King's inheritance. All of this should have been my opportunity." The Sword King's inheritance was very powerful. Just by looking at Yi Fei's explosive increase in strength, Zhao Yu naturally wouldn't forgive Yi Fei so easily. The Palace Lord was also in a difficult position. Although Tianyan Wufu was powerful, his current strength was far from what it used to be. It was undoubtedly irrational to oppose the imperial family now. The manor head could only ask, "Then princess, you mean?" Zhao Yu pointed at Yi Fei as a glint flashed across her eyes. His fortuitous encounter was obtained by relying on my extraterrestrial divine flame. Therefore, I also have the right to share the Sword King's inheritance. That soul-devouring sword should also belong to me." Upon hearing this, Yi Fei's expression changed. He thought to himself that this crazy woman was really demanding an exorbitant price. It was true that he had swallowed the divine flames from beyond the heavens, but he had nothing to say about the compensation that Zhao Yu wanted. Yi Fei was clearly the one who had obtained the Sword King's inheritance by relying on his undying sword soul. It had nothing to do with the extraterrestrial divine fire. Yet, Zhao Yu actually wanted a share of the loot. This made Yi Fei very unhappy. However, he could not reveal the secret of the undying sword soul in front of everyone. This was really depressing. The Martial House master frowned as he heard this. He flatly refused. "Princess, your request is too much. If a disciple of my Martial House can obtain the Sword King's inheritance, that is his good fortune. It has nothing to do with the divine flame from beyond the heavens. Princess, how about this? I will let Yi Fei give you the soul-devouring sword as compensation. What do you think?" "Sure." Zhao Yu nodded coldly. Her goal was to obtain this demonic sword. There was a rumor in the imperial family that Zhao Qianjun had become the Sword King because of this soul-devouring sword. "No, I can't give her the soul-devouring sword." Yi Fei immediately objected when he heard this. One had to know that the soul-devouring sword was his livelihood. As long as he had it, he would be able to withstand a blow from a Wu Zong without dying. Without the soul-devouring sword, Yi Fei's strength would definitely decrease by more than half. Yi Fei would be a fool to hand over such a life-saving item. Not to mention, this soul-devouring sword could also become a key clue for Yi Fei to enter the Sea of Constellations in the future to find the true body of the soul-devouring sword and rescue the Demon Emperor. It was even more impossible for Yi Fei to hand it over. When Zhao Yu heard this, the murderous aura on her face became even more intense. She shouted, "Yi Fei, don't go overboard. Isn't it enough that you devoured my extraterrestrial divine flame? Do you want to monopolize the soul-devouring sword and the Sword King's inheritance as well?" Zhao Yu was so angry that her face turned red and her body heaved up and down. When the manor head heard this, he was also displeased. He transmitted his voice to Yi Fei sternly. "Yi Fei, you are a disciple of Wu Province. However, this soul-devouring sword has killed 3 manor heads and many experts of Wu Province. I can tolerate you for other things, but not this demonic sword." The old man's tone was resolute and decisive. After all, this soul-devouring sword had killed the masters and grandmasters of Wu Province's elders. If Yi Fei held onto this soul-devouring sword, not only would the imperial family not agree to it, but the elders of Wu Province would also hold a great grudge against him. Yi Fei also understood that the manor head's words were completely out of consideration for his future. However, Yi Fei still gritted his teeth and stepped forward resolutely. "Please forgive me, manor head. I must keep this soul-devouring sword. However, I can share the cultivation notes of King Wu with you as the prize for keeping this soul-devouring sword. What do the two of you think?" Yi Fei took out his final trump card. Of course, he also lowered his voice so that only the 3 of them could hear him. No, I will not agree to this. As a disciple of Wu Province, Yi Fei, why must you use this demonic sword that has a deep grudge against Wu Province? Wait, the manor head had been stubborn earlier. However, when he heard that Yi Fei was talking about King Wu's cultivation notes, he was completely shocked. Zhao Yu also widened his eyes and asked incredulously, "How is this possible? Our imperial family knows all of Zhao Qianjuan's secrets like the back of our hand. How could he possibly have?" He was just about to reveal King Wu's cultivation notes. However, the manor head reacted quickly. He suddenly released the aura of a peak martial grandmaster. Without giving Yi Fei and Zhao Yu a chance to speak, he grabbed the 2 of them and rushed into the sky. "Everyone, let's disperse. If something like this happens again, I will not let you off easily." Yi Fei smiled bitterly. Obviously, the manor head did not want the matter of King Wu's cultivation notes to be leaked. He wanted to capture him and interrogate him alone. Fortunately, the manor head only grabbed him and did not reveal any killing intent. Princess Zhao was also by his side. Yi Fei was not worried that the manor head would harm him. Finally, the old man brought the two of them to a small bamboo grove in the deepest part of the martial house. Only then did he descend. With an incomparably solemn expression, he asked, "Yi Fei, is what you said true? Inside the Sword King's secret realm, there really are the Martial King's cultivation notes?" Zhao did not speak. She stared at Yi Fei with her beautiful eyes, not missing any change in Yi Fei's expression. King Wu's cultivation notes were simply too shocking. If this news were spread, the entire Zhao province would be shocked. This was a secret that was even more shocking than the birth of the soul-devouring sword. At this moment, whether it was Zhao Yu or the manor head, they had all subconsciously neglected the soul-devouring sword. Their reaction was also within Yi Fei's expectations. After all, the soul-devouring sword had only pushed Zhao Qianjun to the level of a martial venerable. As for the cultivation notes of King Wu, who was stronger than a martial venerable, such an expert was definitely a priceless treasure in a small place like Zhao province. According to what he had discussed with the Demon King beforehand, Yi Fei respectfully handed the King Wu's cultivation notes to the manor head. "Manor head, this is the King Wu's cultivation notes that I found in the Sword King's secret realm. According to the Sword King's notes before he died, the reason why his strength became so terrifying was not because of the soul-devouring sword, but because of this King Wu's cultivation notes. I only managed to comprehend sword intent by chance through him." Yi Fei was just boasting. After all, Zhao Qianjun had been dead for more than 200 years. The dead could not bear witness. Unfortunately, the manor head and Zhao Yu were too lazy to listen to his boasting. Zhao Yu looked at the manor head excitedly and asked, "How is it, Grandpa? Is this guy lying to us? Is this really King Wu's cultivation notes?" "What, Grandpa?" Yi Fei's heart trembled violently. Zhao Yu was actually the manor head's granddaughter. No wonder Zhao Yu could still act like a tyrant in Wu province despite the bad relationship between the imperial family and Wu province. She had monopolized the Fire Cloud Cave and demoted Yi Fei to a servant disciple. After all this time, the princess was also half the owner of Tianyan Wufu. Yi Fei felt a chill run down his spine. Chapter 85. Heaven and Earth Spiritual Pool. Fortunately, Zhao Yu and the Mansion Master were focused on King Wu's notes. They did not have the time to settle the score with Yi Fei. "How is it, grandfather? Is this King Wu's notes real or fake?" Zhao Yu asked expectantly. She did not want to reveal her identity in front of outsiders. That was why she addressed him as Mansion Master. Now that there were no outsiders around, Zhao Yu reverted to calling him grandfather. Even though Yi Fei was present, in Princess Zhao Yu's eyes, he was not human. She would never forget the fiery gaze Yi Fei had when he barged into the Fire Cloud Cave and saw her naked body. Fortunately, Yi Fei did not know what Zhao Yu was thinking. If he knew, Zhao Yu would still be brooding over that matter. He would not have given King Wu's notes to Zhao Yu. This was simply a way to increase the strength of his enemy. The Mansion Master did not answer Zhao Yu's question. Ever since he had received King Wu's notes, he had been so excited that he could not speak. At this moment, he could not wait to open the notes and read them carefully. Boom! King Wu's notes were indeed extraordinary. When the Demon Emperor gave them to Yi Fei, time was tight, and Yi Fei did not read them. Only now did he realize that King Wu's notes were very different from ordinary notes. Ordinary notes were written on paper with an ink brush. King Wu's notes were different. King Wu had used a mental imprint to write them down stroke by stroke. Every mental imprint on the notes represented King Wu's cultivation experience from a cultivator to a martial king, as well as his deep understanding of these realms. It was not an exaggeration to say that as long as a cultivator obtained the notes, he would be able to comprehend the mental imprints and quickly break through to the next realm. For example, The old Marshall House master of the Sky Fortune Marshall House had been greatly enlightened after comprehending the spiritual imprint in the notebook regarding breaking through to the Marshall Honorable Realm. I see. Breaking through to the Marshall Honorable Realm is not something that can be achieved through hard work alone. There are so many conditions that need to be fulfilled. Haha, there's hope for me to break through. After the mansion master comprehended it for a moment, he was so happy that he lost his self-control and laughed heartily. At the same time, he nodded solemnly and said, There's no problem with this Marshall King's notes. As long as you can fully comprehend it, it is even possible to break through to the Marshall King realm. It's actually true. Could it be that the evil demon Sword King relied on the comprehension of this Marshall King's notes to advance by leaps and bounds? Zhao Yu was puzzled. They still found it hard to believe that the reason for Zhao Qianjuan's increase in strength was not the spirit-devouring sword that the royal family had always believed. It was actually this King Wu's notebook. Yi Fei snickered in his heart. Regardless of whether Zhao Yu and the royal family believed it or not, the notes of King Wu had completely overshadowed the radiance of the soul-devouring sword. Striking while the iron was hot, Yi Fei immediately stared at Zhao Yu and asked, "How about it, Your Highness? I will use this Marshall King's notes to exchange for the spirit-devouring sword and resolve our misunderstanding at the same time. There should be no problem, right?" Zhao Yu sneered and said, "You have a good plan. However, this Marshall King's notes are indeed more valuable than the spirit-devouring sword. I have nothing to say. The matter of you stealing my extraterrestrial divine flame is written off. However, the grudge between us will not be settled so easily. Don't forget what you did to me in the Fire Cloud Cave." After saying that, Zhao Yu glared at Yi Fei angrily. A trace of doubt flashed in the mansion master's eyes as he asked, Could it be that other than swallowing your extraterrestrial divine flame at the Fire Cloud Cave, what else did this brat do?" "Mansion Master, I am innocent. I was framed." Yi Fei quickly put on an innocent expression and interrupted the Mansion Master. If the old man knew that Yi Fei had seen his granddaughter's body, even if he did not die, he would lose a layer of skin. Right now, Yi Fei could only gamble. Zhao Yu was also too embarrassed to mention what happened that day. Indeed, when Zhao Yu heard Yi Fei say that he was innocent, her face turned red. However, she was still a princess and was incomparably noble. How could she have the nerve to tell her elders that Yi Fei had seen her body? Zhao Yu could only helplessly look at the Marshall King's notes and say, "Grandfather, nothing happened between us." "That's right. Do you still want to read this Marshall King's notes? If not, I will take it and comprehend it." "Of course, I want to read it." This old man hopes to comprehend the method to break through to Marshall Saint from it. Since you are fine, come with grandfather. It is the same if we comprehend it together." The mansion master hugged the Marshall King's notes and smiled from ear to ear. He had originally thought that the 10th Marshall Ancestor realm was the peak of his cultivation. However, the Marshall King's notes had given the old man new hope for a breakthrough. The mansion master did not dare to delay. When he saw that Zhao Yu and Yi Fei were fine, he signaled Zhao Yu to follow him to comprehend the Marshall King's notes. However, before he left, the mansion master reminded Yi Fei solemnly, "Young man, since you have presented the Marshall King's notes and made a great contribution to Wu Province, this old man will not pursue the matter of you using the soul-devouring sword. However, you'd better not use this demonic sword in Wu Province. After all, this old man has to take the feelings of the other elders into consideration. Also, you don't have to worry about Li Xiaotian. This old man can guarantee that in the future, no one will dare to bully you in Wu Province. As long as this old man is alive, I will protect you. I will never go back on my word." After hearing these words, Yi Fei felt a surge of warmth in his heart. He knew that if it wasn't for this Marshall House master stepping in and suppressing the Array faction, the Sky Fortune Marshall House would have been slaughtered until rivers of blood flowed. Li Xiaotian would also not have let him off so easily. Thinking about it, He owed the mansion master a favor. Yi Fei's expression turned solemn. He stepped forward and bowed slightly to the mansion master. Rest assured, mansion master, Wu Province may have betrayed me, but I will not betray Wu Province. Yi Fei had made his attitude clear. Even if Wu Province had betrayed him in the past, his heart would still be with Wu Province. He would not bear a grudge or rebel against them. The mansion master's eyes suddenly lit up. He stared at Yi Fei and savored his words carefully. He praised, "What a good line. I will not betray Wu Province. Yi Fei, it is Wu Province's fortune to have a disciple like you. Take this token. Child, go to the Earth's spiritual pool and improve the quality of your Dantian. Wu Province's hope will also fall on you in the future." The mansion master sighed and threw a heavy token to Yi Fei. Then he left with Zhao Yu to study King Wu's notes more carefully. Yi Fei looked at the heavy token in his hand. It was a brass token, engraved with strange array patterns. On the front were the words, "Wind and Cloud," and on the back were the words, "Enter the Earth's spiritual pool" with this token. The Earth's spiritual pool in Wu Province is actually of the Earth rank. No wonder Elder Chun from the Sword Sect kept hinting that I must go in to cultivate. Yi Fei's soul was greatly shaken. Ever since he came across a spiritual pool by chance in the Blackstone Mountains and improved the quality of his Dantian, Yi Fei looked up a lot of information about spiritual pools. Among them, there was a classification of spiritual pools. They were ordinary spiritual pools, special spiritual pools, earth spiritual pools, and heaven spiritual pools. For example, the spiritual pool that Yi Fei came across in the Blackstone Mountains was an ordinary spiritual pool. This kind of spiritual pool could be found in many places with rich spiritual qi. The spiritual qi it contained was equivalent to that of a mid-grade elixir. Special spiritual pools were even rarer. So far, Yi Fei had only seen one in the Fire Cloud Cave in Wu Province. It was slowly forming, and the spiritual qi inside was almost at the level of a high-grade elixir. Zhao Yu had taken off his clothes and cultivated inside because he wanted to absorb more of the spiritual qi. In the end, Yi Fei had a feast for his eyes. Further up was the most important place in Wu Province, the Earth Spiritual Pool. The spiritual qi in this kind of spiritual pool was equivalent to that of a supreme-grade elixir. Yi Fei had never seen a supreme-grade elixir like this before. It was rare to find one in all of Tianyan Wufu. That was why it had the effect of improving the quality of one's Dantian. Speaking of which, my immortal sword soul has only absorbed high-grade elixirs, but it has never absorbed a supreme-grade elixir. I wonder how high the quality of my Dantian can be improved with this level of spiritual qi. Yi Fei licked his lips and looked at the map on the back of the token. Then, he walked through the bamboo forest and walked towards the innermost part. According to the map on the token, Tianyan Wufu's Earth Spiritual Pool was inside. Chapter 86. Talent Enhancement. The Earth's Soul Pool in Tianyan Wufu was not very far from this bamboo forest. While the manor head and Zhao Yu were busy comprehending the Martial King's notes, Yi Fei had also followed the map on the back of the token and successfully passed through the small bamboo forest, arriving at a cave at the back. Outside the cave, there was a faint killing intent. There was also a stone tablet inscription that warned the disciples that if they rashly entered, there would be consequences. Just as Yi Fei approached, a black figure blocked his way. It was an elder from Wu Province who was in charge of guarding the Earth's spiritual pool. Seeing Yi Fei approaching, the elder's cold expression changed. He opened his mouth and scolded, "Stop right there. You're just a lowly odd job worker. Who allowed you to come here? Hurry up and get lost." Yi Fei was immediately infuriated by the elder. "So what if you're a servant disciple? You're just an ant in the 10th level of the martial master realm. How dare you? How dare a lowly servant insult this old man?" The black-clothed elder was furious. He thought that Yi Fei was a servant who had snuck over while the manor head was away. He instantly wanted to teach Yi Fei a lesson. All of a sudden, a command medallion appeared in front of him. This is the Wind Cloud token. How could this be? The billboard hasn't even started yet. How did you obtain this token? That elder stuttered. His forehead was already covered in cold sweat. Yi Fei put away the token and was too lazy to answer this person's question. He swaggered forward and said, "I want to go in now. Do you have any objections?" Of course, this elder had a problem with it. And it was a big problem. It was unheard of in Wu province that a handyman disciple could get a Fengyun token and enter the Earth's spiritual pool in advance. It was also because this person had been cultivating diligently here that he had never seen Yi Fei's might. However, in front of the Tempest token, he still retreated to the side and said, "Since the Tempest token is in your hands, you may enter. I'm sorry about what happened just now." The black-robed elder was not stupid. He knew that the person who had obtained the Wind Cloud token had a bright future ahead of him. He was not someone that an elder like him, who was unable to break through to martial arts grandmaster, could afford to offend. Of course, he quickly apologized. "Don't worry. Also, many thanks. Yi Fei Token Sect Editor, Chrissy Editor, Chrissy Head Editor, Chrissy Head, calm. Calm. Ow." The black-robed elder sighed and left. He had clearly been dealt a blow by Yi Fei. However, he was not the only one who had been dealt a blow. Ever since the manor had announced that he was stripping Li Xiaotian of his position as an elder, Li Xiaotian had been lying on the ground, maintaining the posture of being suppressed by the manor head. Not far away from him, there was a large patch of blood and flesh. This was the place where Li Xian had been shattered by Yi Fei's sword. Li Xian was the #1 genius of the Array faction. He was also Li Xiaotian's favorite nephew. Li Xiaotian had high hopes for Li Xian. That was why he had arranged for his most trusted disciple, Li Xian, to ambush Yi Fei. He wanted to silence him. In the end, Li Xian had been killed by Yi Fei. Even Li Xiaotian, an elder, had been suppressed by the mansion master for betraying Wu province. Not only had he been stripped of his position as an elder, but he had also been sentenced to 30 years of confinement. Li Xiaotian had also successfully taught the elders and disciples of Wu province what it meant to fail miserably at an easy task. Many of the elders and disciples who came and went cast looks of disdain at Li Xiaotian. The elders of the Array faction were especially angry. As soon as the mansion master left with Yi Fei, all the elders of the Array faction gathered together and pointed to Li Xiaotian, their resentment soaring to the heavens. That black sheep, he knew that the evil Sword King's grave was nearby, but he didn't inform us. Otherwise, a servant disciple wouldn't have been able to rise to prominence. That's right, Li Xiaotian is getting worse and worse. He's a martial arts grandmaster, but he was forced to retreat by a servant disciple. Although Yi Fei is indeed abnormal, he's a disgrace to the Array faction. These words were passed into Li Xiaotian's ears without missing a word, but Li Xiaotian was still lying on the ground in a daze without any reaction. Seeing this scene, the surrounding elders became more and more contemptuous. In the end, the elders of the Saber faction and Staff faction couldn't stand it anymore. They walked over to Li Xiaotian and said coldly, "Brother Li, you used to be an elder. How can you lie on the ground like this? Go back to your room and cultivate in peace. Remember, you're not allowed to take a single step out of your room before 30 years." These words weren't polite at all. The two of them thought that Li Xiaotian was no longer on the same level as them, since he had been stripped of his elder position. Naturally, they wouldn't take him seriously. However, these elders didn't notice that when they left and there was no one around, Li Xiaotian, who had been lying on the ground in a daze, suddenly had a sinister expression on his face. "Old fart, you're really something. You actually dared to suppress me in public for a servant disciple and even stripped me of my elder position. Since you're so heartless, don't blame me for being unjust. So what if I betrayed Wu province? His Highness has already promised to take a daughter of the Leaf family as his concubine. When His Highness ascends to the throne, the Leaf family will be relatives of the Emperor. When that time comes, I'll return today's humiliation to you 100 times, no, 1,000 times over. And Yi Fei, you servant disciple, You killed my disciple and embarrassed me in public. Don't think that I can't kill you just because you have that old fart protecting you. I'll definitely kill you and wipe out your entire family. Kiki, only those who entered the Earth's spiritual pool would know what it felt like to be filled with spiritual energy. Although Yifei had also absorbed spiritual energy from spirit stones in the demon ceiling pagoda, he had only absorbed it slowly. But at that time, he had absorbed it bit by bit. It was far from the comfortable feeling of being soaked in the spiritual spring. At that moment, Yifei suddenly understood why Zhao Yu had taken off his clothes and bathed in the spiritual spring when he was cultivating. The feeling of soaking in the Earth's spiritual pool was countless times more enjoyable than soaking in a hot spring. However, Yifei didn't forget about the important matter. That was to absorb spiritual energy to improve the quality of his energy center. Immortal Sword Soul, I'm counting on you. I'll absorb as much spiritual energy as there is here today. Immortal Sword Soul, absorb. Spiritual energy whistled. It was like a giant whale sucking in water. There was only Yifei in the entire Earth spiritual pool. Of course, Yifei wouldn't hesitate to release the full power of the Immortal Sword Soul. Countless amounts of spiritual energy equivalent to supreme great elixirs flowed through Yifei's pores and into his body. They were quickly absorbed and refined by the Immortal Sword Soul. This time, the speed at which the Immortal Sword Soul reached saturation was faster than ever. In less than an hour, the Immortal Sword Soul had already let out a very human-like burp. Then, a large amount of black energy was released from the Immortal Sword Soul. It almost burst Yifei's meridians. It couldn't be helped. The quality of spiritual energy in the Earth's spiritual pool was too high. Every strand of spiritual energy was equivalent to that of a supreme-grade elixir. Of course, Yifei didn't dare to be negligent. The moment the black energy was released, he had already used his mind to control the energy. All of it flowed into his energy center to improve the quality of his energy center. 2 hours later, the quality of Yifei's energy center had reached Black Class Level 2. 4 hours later, the quality of Yifei's energy center had reached Black Class Level 3. 6 hours, Black Class Level 3. 8 hours, Black Class Level 4. The feeling of his energy center's quality improving was so comfortable that it made Yifei want to scream out loud. If his speed of improvement was discovered by others, even a Wu Zone would be shocked to death. However, the energy of the Immortal Sword Soul was still released crazily. The quality of Yifei's energy center was still improving rapidly. It continued to improve until it reached Black Class Level 7. All the spiritual energy in the Earth's spiritual pool had been used up. Not only did the Immortal Sword Soul's desire to absorb not stop, it actually became stronger and stronger. It was as if there was more high-quality spiritual energy here for it to absorb. Yifei's heart suddenly moved. The Immortal Sword Soul wouldn't send out such a message for no reason. Could it be that there really is more spiritual energy that I haven't discovered? Chapter 87. Chapter 87 Ninefold Demon Emperor Sutra. Originally, after the spiritual energy was absorbed, the water in the spiritual pool should have turned into ordinary water. However, upon careful observation, Yifei realized that the spiritual energy in the water had not completely disappeared. There were still wisps of spiritual energy constantly emerging from the cracks of the stone slabs underwater. Could it be that the spiritual chi that I absorbed just now was not from the Earth's spiritual pool, but merely a portion of the spiritual chi that leaked out from the Earth's spiritual pool? That was very likely. Yifei bent down and stretched out his hand. His fingers clasped onto a crack in the stone slab, and with a forceful push, the stone slab was pushed open, revealing a large gap. A large amount of astonishing spiritual energy crazily gushed out from the bottom of the stone slab. It turned out that this Earth spiritual pool was actually in the shape of a gourd. The real spiritual pool was really hidden under the ground. The spring water above was just a portion of the spiritual qi that leaked out from the Earth's spiritual pool. Yifei did not know that the reason why Wu province only opened up part of the Earth's spiritual pool was because the spiritual qi contained in the Earth's spiritual pool was too violet. It was comparable to the effect of a top-grade elixir. If a martial master realm disciple were to absorb all of this energy, his body would explode in a matter of minutes. Even a martial ancestor realm elder would have to be careful when absorbing it. It was only because Yifei had the indestructible sword soul in his body that he could absorb as much energy as he wanted. That was why he could ignore the Earth's soul pool and absorb as much energy as he could. Haha. Luckily, I was smart enough to discover the secret of the Earth's soul pool. Otherwise, I would have missed this opportunity. Undying sword spirit continued to absorb. Yifei was pleasantly surprised. The spiritual energy underground was at least 10 times denser than above ground. If he were to absorb all of this spiritual energy, how terrifying would the quality of his dantian be? In just half an hour, Yifei discovered that the quality of his dantian had rapidly improved to the 7th grade Xian rank. Then it jumped to profound grade 8, profound grade 9, profound grade 10. Boom! When the quality of Yifei's dantian increased to Xian grade 10, the space within his dantian suddenly shook violently. Countless faint blue light spots actually slowly appeared within the originally pitch-black space. These dots of light also illuminated the originally pitch-black dantian space, making it look as magnificent as a blue gem. For the first time, Yifei saw the indestructible sword soul that existed within his body. It was not black, as Yifei had always thought. In fact, it was a dark golden sword shadow. Yes, it was a sword shadow. However, the power it released was 10,000 times more terrifying than that of the illusionary sword intent released by Nephilim Emperor. This is the true form of the undying sword soul. Also, why did my dantian turn blue? A blue dantian, isn't that the color of an Earth-level dantian? When Yifei withdrew his consciousness from his dantian, he was shocked to find that the quality of his dantian had been upgraded to Earth Grade 1. At the same time, Yifei also realized that he had reached a bottleneck. After upgrading his dantian to the Earth level, even though the undying sword soul could still absorb the spiritual energy of the Earth's spiritual pool, it could no longer upgrade his dantian's quality. This was clearly telling Yifei that if he wanted to continue upgrading his dantian, he would have to find a sky spiritual pool of a higher grade than the Earth's spiritual pool, or an elixir that surpassed supreme grade. When Yifei realized this, his face started to turn blue, just like his dantian. Damn it, do I have to be so picky? I am a martial master, yet I have never even seen a supreme grade elixir. Where am I supposed to find one that surpasses supreme grade? Yifei was extremely depressed. What was even more depressing was that although there was still a lot of black energy in his body, he could not use it to upgrade his dantian quality. Wasting energy was definitely not a good habit. So what should he do with the remaining energy? That's right, I can use it to cultivate the Demon Emperor's Sutra. Yifei recalled that when he left the Demon Sealing Pagoda, his chief master, the Demon Emperor, had given him the Demon Emperor's Sutra. When he returned, Yifei was so angry that he only wanted to take revenge that he did not even look at this cultivation technique. Now that he had the time and a large amount of black energy in his body that could increase his perception, Yifei did not want to waste it. He simply took out the Demon Emperor Sutra and started reading it. This Demon Emperor Sutra was also engraved with spiritual intent. In order to prevent it from being leaked, the Demon Emperor had specially tampered with it. Other than Yifei, no one else could remove the spiritual intent imprint on it. Yifei, my disciple, you can see the spiritual imprint I left behind. This means that you have already begun cultivating the Demon Emperor Sutra. However, I must remind you that although this Demon Emperor Sutra is the strongest body tempering cultivation technique that surpasses the heaven rank, I can only give you the most basic second volume for the time, being to prevent it from being leaked. As for the middle and first volumes, I will impart them to you when you enter the Demon Sealing Pagoda again. So you have to work hard. The Demon Emperor began by telling Yi Fei that this Demon Emperor Sutra was not complete. He also tirelessly told Yi Fei that if he wanted to obtain the rest of the cultivation technique, he had to go to the Demon Ceiling Pagoda and rescue him first. In particular, that last sentence of "work hard" caused Yi Fei's face to darken. Sure enough, there's no good master. He actually left so many tricks up his sleeves. I haven't even reached the martial ancestor realm. What's the point of working hard? Yi Fei cursed. Fortunately, although the Demon Emperor was stingy, this Demon Emperor Sutra was the real deal. Yi Fei's eyes lit up when he heard that it was the strongest body tempering cultivation technique of the Demon Tao. Yi Fei put aside the matter of rescuing the Demon Emperor for now. As he held the Demon Emperor Sutra in his hands, he couldn't wait to start comprehending it. After all, this was an earth-grade cultivation technique that was very rare in Wu Province. Even though Yi Fei had an earth-grade dantian, it would have taken him at least 10 days to fully comprehend such a cultivation technique. However, Yi Fei, who had the indestructible sword soul, was very willful. In just half a day, he had lifted his head and a look of enlightenment flashed across his eyes. I see. This Demon Emperor Sutra is indeed abnormal. Every time one cultivates a level, the strength of one's physical body will reach the peak of that level. It is said that one's physical body will be invincible in the same level. The strength of one's physical body will reach the peak of the martial master realm. The second level is the peak of the martial grandmaster realm. The third level is the peak of the martial honorable realm. As for the third level and above, the cunning Demon Emperor didn't even write it down. He was obviously keeping Yi Fei in suspense so that he could stimulate Yi Fei to quickly cultivate and go to the Demon Ceiling Pagoda to save him. Yi Fei was speechless on the spot. Then, he picked up the Demon Emperor Sutra and continued to comprehend it. Since the Demon Emperor Sutra was so powerful, the conditions to cultivate it were, of course, extremely harsh and even cruel. The cultivation techniques of the Demon Path were all about going to extremes. It was normal for one to not value one's own life. The Demon Emperor Sutra was the best example of the Demon Path style of courting death. The Demon Emperor warned Yi Fei at the beginning. The cultivation of the Demon Emperor Sutra emphasized that there could be no construction without destruction. In order to cultivate this cultivation technique, one had to go to extremes. He had to constantly use the Demon Path to shatter his own veins, bones, and even the tiniest cells in his body. Only by going through such extreme tempering would Yi Fei's physical body be able to continuously transform and become more and more indestructible. For example, the Demon Emperor had only cultivated the Demon Emperor Sutra to the 7th level, but he was still able to survive being suppressed by the Demon Ceiling Pagoda for 3,000 years. From this, one could see how terrifying the Demon Emperor Sutra was. The only thing that worried the Demon Emperor was the quality of Yi Fei's dantian. It couldn't be any worse. One had to know that cultivating the Demon Emperor Sutra was a cruel and painful process. The requirements for talent and comprehension were even more unreasonable. In the Demon Emperor Sutra, the Demon Emperor had once told Yi Fei with lingering fear that even with his talent and comprehension, he had almost died when he started cultivating this cultivation technique. He had only succeeded by a fluke. Therefore, without being fully prepared, the Demon Emperor warned Yi Fei not to forcibly cultivate this cultivation technique. Even if you have to spend 10 or 20 years slowly fumbling around, you must not take the risk and forcibly cultivate it for the sake of quick success. Chapter 88. Chapter 88 Night Raid. The Demon Emperor would never have dreamt that Yi Fei would have such a miraculous sword soul in his body. For others, cultivating the Demon Emperor Sutra might really be a death sentence. Just a masochistic grinding of one's own flesh and blood, and even the cells, was an incomparably painful torture. The slightest mistake would result in not only failing to cultivate the demonic arts, but also losing one's life. But Yi Fei was different. Just think about it. Even if Yi Fei's Dantian was destroyed and his meridians were burned, the undying sword soul could still heal Yi Fei's damaged Dantian and meridians by absorbing medicinal pills or spirit energy. Therefore, the special condition of cultivating the Devil Emperor Sutra was not a problem for Yi Fei at all. Even if all his bones were broken, Yi Fei was confident that he could quickly recover from his injuries as long as he had the undying sword soul. The dangers of cultivating the Devil Emperor Sutra were non-existent to Yi Fei. While the spiritual energy in the Earth's spiritual pool is still abundant, I'll start cultivating the Devil Emperor Sutra now. I really want to see how strong my physical body will be after cultivating the first level. Yi Fei licked his lips and looked forward to it. Although Yi Fei had comprehended sword intent, he still had a weakness. His defense was insufficient. If his sword intent was unable to kill his opponent, then any random attack from his opponent could cause fatal damage to him. As for the Devil Emperor Sutra, it just so happened to make up for Yi Fei's weak defense. He took a deep breath. Yi Fei steeled himself and began to use the Devil Emperor Sutra to transform his true essence into a special kind of devil essence. And this devil essence had an incomparably powerful ability to transform the body. Now, Yi Fei was going to use this demon essence to constantly transform and temper his flesh, tendons, and bones. As soon as the demonic essence was born, Yi Fei painfully discovered that the bones in his body were about to shatter under the impact of the demonic essence. That kind of pain was like using a knife to scratch his own bones. The undying sword soul could heal his injuries, but it could not cover up the bone-piercing pain. Yi Fei had only cultivated the demonic imperial scripture for a short while, but he was already in so much pain that his entire body was convulsing. He wanted nothing more than to bang his head against the wall and commit suicide. However, when he thought of his sister being brought to the sacred lands, whose fate was unknown, and the fact that he was facing a martial arts ancestor realm expert, he felt helpless. Yi Fei bit his lip and forcefully endured the pain. Because he bit too hard, traces of blood flowed from his lips into the spiritual pool. But Yi Fei didn't care at all. Endure, I have to endure. If I can't even endure this little bit of pain, what am I talking about? What ability do I have to go to the Holy Land and bring Shan Shan back? Amidst the excruciating pain, every detail of his life with his sister, Yi Shan Shan, flooded into Yi Fei's mind. Suddenly, Yi Fei's heart was filled with great courage. It was him. He must go to the Star Moon Holy Land. Continue to cultivate the demonic imperial scripture. Yi Fei had a crazed look on his face. It was as if he had forgotten all the pain in his body as he crazily cultivated. The undying sword soul could ensure that no matter how much damage Yi Fei's body suffered during the cultivation process, it would be able to recover quickly. There wouldn't be a situation where his cultivation failed and he would be seriously injured. The effects of cultivating in such a two-pronged manner exceeded Yi Fei's expectations. The undying sword soul guaranteed that his body wouldn't be torn apart or crushed by the violent demonic aura. On the contrary, Yi Fei could use the demonic aura to the greatest extent to continuously temper his flesh, blood, bones, and meridians. During this repeated tug-of-war and tempering, Yi Fei could clearly feel that his body was constantly breaking through its limits and improving rapidly. Time also flew by quickly. In the end, Yi Fei, who had already gotten used to this kind of pain, even seemed to have forgotten about it. He devoted all his attention to his cultivation. A day passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, Yi Fei had been cultivating in the Earth's spiritual pool for 2 full days. He had almost forgotten about time and everything else. It wasn't until the second night that Yi Fei, who was cultivating, suddenly heard the sound of his bones grinding violently. Boom! Yi Fei opened his eyes and stood up from the Earth's spiritual pool. At this moment, the spiritual qi in the spiritual pool had become extremely thin. However, Yi Fei's body was shining with a faint golden luster. This was the demonic battle golden body. This was the sign of the first level of the demonic imperial scripture. On the other side, outside the spiritual pool in the forbidden area of Wu province, the black-clothed elder who was guarding the spiritual pool was still guarding it. His talent was limited, so he couldn't enter the earth's spiritual pool to cultivate. Therefore, he came up with a compromise, which was to guard the earth's spiritual pool outside. After all, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the spiritual pool was definitely 10 times denser than in other places. This was also one of the best cultivation places in Wu province. However, today, the black-clothed elder was destined to be disappointed. After cultivating hard for several hours, he could no longer feel the dense spiritual chi from before. Instead, the spiritual chi in the surroundings was rapidly decreasing and rushing into the earth's spiritual pool. The black-clothed elder had no choice but to stop cultivating. He looked in the direction of the earth's spiritual pool and said, "Why is the spiritual chi flowing backward?" This situation seems to have only happened when the mansion master tried to break through to the martial honorable realm and needed a huge amount of spiritual chi. What kind of cultivation method is that servant-disciple cultivating? How could it cause such a phenomenon? Because he was too shocked, the black-clothed elder didn't notice that a figure was rapidly approaching him like a ghost. The figure was less than 20 steps away from him. Who is it? After all, the black-clothed elder was an expert of martial master level 10. Being able to guard the spiritual pool here meant that the black-clothed elder was deeply trusted by the mansion master. As the figure approached, the black-clothed elder immediately turned his head and was about to ask. Puff! A cold light had already pierced his throat. The black-clothed elder widened his eyes and his hands tightly grasped the figure's shoulders. He couldn't believe it until he died. Li Xiaotian. You. It's me. Xian Feng. Don't blame me for being ruthless. If you want to blame someone, blame the mansion master. He didn't think highly of anyone, but he thought highly of a servant disciple. He even dared to strip me of my position as an elder. It was you who forced me to rebel. Li Xiaotian's face was ferocious. Even if he had to betray the Wu province, he still had to find a dignified reason for himself. This showed how hypocritical and sinister this person was. After killing Xian Feng, Li Xiaotian subconsciously looked at the small bamboo house with a mansion master and Zhao you were cultivating in seclusion. His eyes flashed with a hint of relief. In fact, as early as yesterday, Li Xiaotian, who was unwilling to accept his failure, had secretly lurked nearby. However, he was afraid that the mansion master would discover him and ruin his plan, so he didn't dare to take action. Not long ago, Li Xiaotian, who was proficient in arrays, gathered his courage and quietly approached the place where the mansion master was cultivating in seclusion. He found that a soundproof array had been set up in advance, completely sealing off the small bamboo house. The mansion master's original intention was to prevent the secret of the Martial King's notes from being leaked, so he took precautions in advance. Unexpectedly, Li Xiaotian saw the opportunity and secretly sneaked through the small bamboo forest, arriving at the Earth's spiritual pool. In an instant, he attacked and killed an elder guarding the spiritual pool. Then, Li Xiaotian looked at the cave entrance where the Earth's spiritual pool was located, and a gloomy and sorrowful cold smile appeared on his face. Chapter 89. Chapter 89 vs. Wu Zong. That being said, Li Xiaotian was a sly old fox. Of course, he wouldn't be so foolish as to attack Yi Fei near where the manor head was in seclusion. In fact, the reason why Li Xiaotian was able to find his way here without anyone noticing was because of his comprehensive understanding of Wu province's formations as the formation sex imparting elder. The instant Li Xiaotian killed Xian Feng, the elder guard, Li Xiaotian had already laughed sinisterly. He took out a dozen or so small array flags and began to set up a strange array pattern. Inside the Earth's spiritual pool, Yi Fei did not notice the danger outside. He was still immersed in the joy of successfully cultivating the battle demon golden body. Cultivating the Demon Imperial Sutra was an extremely difficult and dangerous process. The slightest carelessness could cause the demonic energy within the cultivator's body to wreak havoc and even kill the cultivator. This was also what the Demon Emperor had told Yi Fei. Back then, when he cultivated the Demon Emperor's Sutra, he had risked his life and succeeded by a fluke. If the Demon Emperor were to know that Yi Fei was able to cultivate the undying sword soul without taking any risks, the Demon Emperor would definitely vomit blood from anger. Indeed, comparing oneself to others would only make one angry. Now that I've cultivated the first level of the Devil Emperor Sutra and condensed the golden body of the War Demon, I wonder if this golden body is as powerful as the Devil Emperor said. After his joy, Yi Fei calmed down and activated the Devil Emperor Sutra again, pushing the War Demon golden body to the limit. Then, Yi Fei did something shocking. He picked up the Devouring Spirit Sword and gently pierced his arm. Clang! The sword did not pierce through. It wasn't until Yi Fei used all his strength and ruthlessly stabbed the War Demon golden body that a crack appeared. A shallow cut appeared on the skin of his arm. Yi Fei's eyes became even brighter. The Battle Demon's golden body is indeed abnormal. The Devouring Spirit Sword was very sharp. If it had been a low-level martial master, Yi Fei would have been able to kill him in an instant if he had wanted to. However, the Devouring Spirit Sword had only left a small wound on his body. From this, it could be seen how powerful the Battle Demon golden body was. More importantly, Yi Fei had relied on the abundant spirit chi in the Earth's spiritual pool to cultivate the Battle Demon golden body to the first great circle. It was estimated that even a martial artist in the 10th level of the Martial Master realm would not be as strong as Yi Fei's physical body. In terms of physical defense, Yi Fei's physical body was definitely invincible in the same realm. How could Yi Fei not be excited? But his excitement didn't last long. Outside the cave, a cold rebuke suddenly came. Disciple Yi Fei, it's time to cultivate in the Earth's spiritual pool. Why aren't you coming out? How long are you going to dawdle? Is there a time limit for cultivating in the Earth's spiritual pool? Why hadn't the black-robed elder mentioned this when he had come in? Yi Fei had only stayed in Wu province for a short period of time, so he did not understand many of the Wu province's rules. When he heard the faint voice transmission from outside, Yi Fei really thought that he had broken some rules by staying in there for too long. He could only agree helplessly. I'm coming out now. As he spoke, Yi Fei quickly left the Earth's spiritual pool and walked out of the cave. As soon as he walked out of the cave, he felt a strong gust of wind and a murderous intent coming from the side. Die, you vile being! Li Xiaoyan's face was gloomy. He had been lying in ambush in an attempt to sneak up on Yi Fei. In a hurry, Yi Fei could only use the Devouring Spirit Sword to block in front of him. His fist and the Devouring Spirit Sword collided with a loud bang. At the same time, a huge force pushed Yi Fei back. If it weren't for the fact that he had successfully cultivated the Battle Demon golden body, Li Xiaoyan's attack would have injured Yi Fei and caused him to vomit blood. It was obvious how powerful a martial arts grandmaster was. Otherwise, the black-robed elder who had been guarding outside would not have been killed by Li Xiaoyan's sneak attack. Yi Fei barely escaped with his life. He immediately recognized the person who had attacked him. It was Li Xiaotian. How could it be you, Li Xiaotian? Weren't you punished to face the wall for 30 years? Even now, you still dare to sneak up on me. Yi Fei's expression was ugly. He had never imagined that Li Xiaotian would be so crazy as to risk being killed by the palace master to sneak up on him. Yi Fei instinctively looked in the direction of the little bamboo forest. In the end, he did not see the palace master. Instead, he saw the black-robed elder who had been guarding the Earth's spiritual pool dead on the ground. Yi Fei's eyes narrowed slightly. He looked at Li Xiaotian in shock and said, Li Xiaotian, as an elder, you dare to kill even your own family. TSK, so what if I did? Wu province was heartless to me, so don't blame me for being unjust. I'm no longer an elder of Wu province. I'm a guest of the crown prince. In the future, my Li family will become a relative of the emperor. How can a mere Wu province tolerate a true dragon like me? Li Xiaotian said proudly. Yi Fei exposed him mercilessly. If you want to be a dog, then be a dog. What's the point of saying it so righteously? Why don't you bark a few times, and I'll give you a few bones to chew on? Yi Fei said these words very loudly. He even used his true yuan to form a sound wave that spread out in all directions. Yi Fei understood when he saw the black-robed elder's corpse. Li Xiaoyan's assassination attempt was not ordered by the Wu province. It was completely his own decision. Since the Wu province did not participate, Yi Fei could be at ease and warn the palace master who was not far away. As long as the old palace master finds out about this, he will definitely step in and stop Li Xiaotian from continuing to kill. Yi calculated in his heart. The strange thing was that when he warned Li Xiaotian did not stop him. Instead, he said sarcastically, TSK, trash. Go ahead and bark. That old thing could stop me from killing you the first time. He definitely won't be able to stop me a second time. Xin, just you wait. I'll bring this ant to your grave right now. Then, I'll tear him into pieces and bury him with you. Great shift formation. Boom. Li Xiaotian laughed sinisterly and activated the formation flags that he had set up beforehand. Only then did Yi Fei realize that Li Xiaotian had ambushed him just now because he wanted to force him into the great shift formation that he had set up beforehand. F***CK. What are the palace master and those elders doing? They actually allowed this old bastard to sneak out and ambush me. Yi Fei cursed angrily. But this time, he had actually wronged the Wu province. Firstly, this was where the palace master usually cultivated. No one had ever dared to barge in. Secondly, the martial king's notes were too important. Once word got out, it was destined to cause a bloodbath. In order to prevent the news from getting out, the palace master and Zhao Yu had specially set up an isolation formation outside when they were comprehending the notes. The palace master would never have thought that Li Xiaotian would actually dare to betray the Wu province. He even dared to sneak in here and try to assassinate Yi Fei. Unable to call for help, Yi Fei had no choice but to save himself. Activating the Devil Emperor's Sutra to its limit, Yi Fei tried to rush out of the white light that was beginning to teleport him. Unfortunately, the difference in their cultivation levels was too great. The difference between a 5th-grade martial master and a 1st-grade martial ancestor was like the difference between an ant and an elephant. Unfortunately, Formation Inscription's masters had a very obvious characteristic. In a one-on-one fight, Formation Inscription's masters were the weakest among martial artists. They were probably even weaker than alchemists. However, if they were given time to set up a formation, their strength could double or even multiply. Faced with Li Xiaoyan's carefully prepared trap, no matter how strong Yi Fei was, he could only fall for it if he was caught off guard. He roared angrily and was forcefully shifted out of the white light that filled the sky. Chapter 90. The golden body. At the same time that Yi Fei left through the teleportation formation, the old mansion master, who was studying King Wu's notes in the small bamboo house, finally sensed that something was wrong. He removed the soundproofing formation outside as quickly as possible. Zhao Yu, who was also meditating, was very puzzled. She opened her eyes and asked, "Grandpa, what's wrong? Is there something wrong with this notebook?" "It's not a problem with the notes. It's a problem with Yi Fei. This old man was too careless. I didn't think that Li Xiaotian would dare to betray the martial house." The old martial house master's face was filled with anger. Before he could explain, he had already soared into the air. He quickly passed through the small bamboo forest and landed outside the cave of the earth's spiritual pool. However, Yi Fei was nowhere to be seen. The corpse of the black-clothed elder on the ground only served to further ignite the old mansion lord's fury. "Elders of the martial house, listen to my orders. Immediately track down Li Xiaoyan's whereabouts for this old man. If he dares to harm even a single hair on Yi Fei's head, this old man will destroy the entire Sky Fortune martial house and destroy his Leaf family." The old chief was finally enraged. To Tianyan Wufu, Yi Fei, who had comprehended sword intent, was the hope of Wu province's resurgence. The old chief would rather have something happen to himself than see anything happen to Yi Fei. Li Xiaotian, do you really want to kill me? After the white light faded, Yi Fei had already been moved to a cemetery outside Tianyin Wufu. The people buried around him were all disciples of Tianyin Wufu. Of course, Li Xian's grave was also here. However, Li Xian had already been torn into pieces by Yi Fei's sword qi. In addition, Li Xiaotian had betrayed Wu province, so the disciple in charge of burying him just casually wrote a name and erected a tombstone. At this time, Li Xiaotian was standing beside Li Xian's grave. He stared at Yi Fei with a cold and resentful expression and scolded loudly. Bastard, when you killed Li Xian, did you ever think that today would happen? What are you waiting for? Kneel down quickly and repent for your mistakes. My fault? Yi Fei nearly laughed out loud. His face was also filled with anger as he said loudly, You are the ones in the wrong. If you hadn't taken advantage of me because I had no one to rely on and used me as a scapegoat, why did so many things happen? Shut up, you ant. Li Xiaotian's expression was incomparably crazy. He knew that Yi Fei was telling the truth, but because it was the truth, Li Xiaotian couldn't accept it. Ant, do you know that not only is Li Xian the disciple that I am most proud of, she is also the strongest genius of the Li clan. It can be said that Li Xian is the future hope of the Li clan, but you killed Li Xian with your own hands in front of me. Ant, tell me how you should be punished. Hearing this, Yi Fei was even angrier. He pointed at Li Xiaotian and retorted in a deep voice, Old dog, don't you think you are too shameless? Only Li Xian is allowed to kill me, but I can't kill Li Xian? Li Xiaotian's face was indifferent. He glanced at Yi Fei with extreme disdain and said, How dare you? Ant, you are just a servant in Wu province, while Li Xian is the strongest genius of the Li clan and Wu province. If Li Xian wanted to kill you, you should have stood there obediently and let him kill you. That is the fate that people like you deserve. But you kill my disciple in front of me. That is a capital crime. Xian, just you wait and see. Master will avenge you very soon. Yi Fei, you ant, listen up. If you don't want to suffer, then kneel down right now and sincerely repent in front of Xian's tombstone. Then, tell this old man exactly how you obtained the Sword King's inheritance and how you comprehended the sword intent. Li Xiaotian thought of the power of Yi Fei's sword essence. His eyes were burning with passion. When he saw the spirit-devouring sword on Yi Fei's back, his eyes were full of greed. Yi Fei understood that Li Xiaotian's revenge for Li Xian was just an excuse. He wanted to seize the opportunity to steal his spirit-devouring sword. This was the old dog's real purpose. You want to force me to tell you how to comprehend the sword essence, and you want to steal my spirit-devouring sword? Yi Fei suppressed his anger. The strength of the two sides was too far apart. He had no confidence in defeating Li Xiaotian. He could only try his best to stall for time and wait for the Wu province's rescue. Yi Fei didn't believe that the masters of Wu province couldn't sense the huge movement of the teleportation formation. However, Yi Fei wasn't sure when the masters of Wu province would find this place. Fant, you have some tricks up your sleeve, but an ant will always be an ant. Whether it's the spirit-devouring sword or the sword essence, only a superior person like me and a superior family like my Li clan can possess them. You are just a servant. You don't have a right to possess them. Li Xiaotian was cunning and extremely arrogant. Seeing that his purpose was exposed, he didn't forget to put on the airs of a martial arts grandmaster. He ordered Yi Fei, Ant, I will count to 3. Are you going to kneel or not? Cut the crap. Let's fight. I, Yi Fei, will kneel to my parents and my master. How can I kneel to a shameless old mad dog like you? Yi Fei's expression was firm as he gripped the spirit-devouring sword tightly. Since Li Xiaotian refused to give up, he could only fight to the end. Li Xiaotian was furious. How dare a lowly servant insult me? Yi Fei, very good. Since an ant like you wants to suffer, I will fulfill your wish. I will cripple your limbs first. Let's see if you kneel or not. Array Faction's palm technique. 5 finger peaks. Rumble. Li Xiaotian opened his 5 fingers. The condensed true origin surged wildly. Then it turned into 5 huge peaks and pressed down on Yi Fei. His goal was to cripple Yi Fei's limbs. Of course, Yi Fei wouldn't let this person succeed. Even if the odds of winning weren't high, he still had to fight. A sword would rather break than bend. A sword would destroy everything. A sword would never die. 13th sword style. A resplendent sword light lit up the night sky. Yi Fei attacked. He held the spirit-devouring sword and directly resisted the 5 peaks. He wasn't willing to back down at all. 3 intense explosions were heard. The 13-fold critical strike had allowed Yi Fei to destroy the 3 quintessential essence mountains in front of him in one breath. However, this was the limit of the 13th sword. In the end, Yi Fei's cultivation level was too low. Helpless, Yi Fei could only use his sword intent. Devouring sword intent. An even more intense sword light exploded from Yi Fei's body and formed a small black hole. In an instant, it had swallowed the other 2 true origin peaks. Haha, is this the limit of your sword intent? Then you can go die. Paint my body with fresh blood and summon the blood contract spirit. Blood soul array, open for me. Li Xiaotian laughed maniacally. He had been waiting for the moment Yi Fei used his sword intent. The 5 peaks were just a feint. Li Xiaotian's Real-killing move was the blood soul beast spirit that he had carefully nurtured. Furthermore, when Li Xian used the blood soul array, he needed some time to prepare. However, when Li Xiaotian, a martial ancestor realm expert, used it, he only needed to recite an incantation. Behind his body, a dense array of runes had already appeared, and at the very center of the array, a huge, strange beast spirit that was completely black all over, but its eyes were shining with a strange red light. It had already rushed out with a roar, occupying the void for a moment. Boom! With a thought from Li Xiaotian, the strange beast's tail had already shattered the void. Taking advantage of the moment when Yi Fei was blocking the true origin peaks, it slammed heavily onto Yi Fei's body. This slap caused the air to explode. Such an attack was enough to kill any expert in the martial master realm in an instant. Although he had secretly held back some of his strength, Li Xiaotian was certain that this attack would definitely shatter all the bones in Yi Fei's body. Then, he would make Yi Fei lie down in front of him like a dead dog and allow him to torture and humiliate him wantonly. However, what actually happened was that after receiving such a heavy blow from the strange beast, Yi Fei only spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated a dozen steps. Then, he patted his body, which was about to fall apart, and stood there in a daze. How can this be? This is impossible. This ant is just a piece of trash in the martial master realm. How can he withstand my beast spirit and only be slightly injured? This unbelievable scene made Li Xiaotian's eyes almost pop out. He couldn't understand how Yi Fei's body had such a terrifying defensive power. The War Demon Golden Body is actually so abnormal. It can even withstand the attack of a martial ancestor realm expert. Yi Fei was ecstatic. Originally, when the strange beast had slammed down, Yi Fei had thought that even if he didn't die, he would be seriously injured. However, the Demon Emperor's Sutra and the War Demon Golden Body allowed him to withstand the attack of a martial ancestor realm expert and only be slightly injured. Chapter 91. Defeating a martial ancestor fight. Yi Fei wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. After discovering the power of the War Demon Golden Body, Yi Fei no longer defended passively. He already saw a glimmer of hope in defeating Li Xiaotian. So what if you're a martial ancestor? If you want my devouring soul sword, I'll take your life as compensation. Devouring sword intent. The terrifying sword radiance shook the void and formed a pitch-black hole that swallowed Li Xiaotian. This was the devouring sword intent, which could devour and destroy everything. Even though Yi Fei had only comprehended 10% of the sword intent, this power was enough to cause serious damage to a martial ancestor. Ant, you're courting death. Li Xiaotian was thoroughly enraged. The greed in his eyes grew stronger. Obviously, he had already regarded Yi Fei's War Demon Golden Body as a part of the Sword King inheritance and wanted to take it for himself. Therefore, Li Xiaotian did not use his full strength this time. Before he forced Yi Fei to reveal the secret of the Sword King inheritance, he did not want to kill Yi Fei so quickly. Therefore, Li Xiaotian did not kill him. 5 finger peaks. 5 true yuan peaks whizzed over and blocked the devouring sword intent. The beast spirit formed by the blood soul array widened its blood-red and cruel snake eyes. While Yi Fei was busy blocking the true yuan peaks, the snake tail hit Yi Fei's body like a steel whip at lightning speed. Li Xiaotian had used 80% of his strength in this attack. Even a 10th level martial master expert would be smashed to pieces on the spot if they were hit by this attack. War Demon Golden Body. Yi Fei did not dare to be careless. When the sword radiance devoured the 5 true yuan peaks, he had already activated the Devil Emperor scripture to the maximum. His entire body was covered in layers of pale golden light. At this moment, the Guimeng Bee Spirit's heavy snake tail also smashed down. Yi Fei retreated a few steps and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. However, this injury was nothing to Yi Fei, who still had a lot of black energy in his body. His consciousness communicated with the undying sword soul. The black energy in his body instantly healed his injuries. Yi Fei's eyes became brighter and brighter. As expected, although Li Xiaotian is a martial ancestor realm expert, he is definitely the weakest among them. If Yi Fei had been a Grandmaster Swordsman, a Grandmaster Saber Cultivator, or a Grandmaster Spear Cultivator, or a Grandmaster Martial Arts Grandmaster with a strong attacking power, even if he had the Battle Demon Golden Body, Yi Fei would not have been able to learn it so easily. However, Li Xiaotian was an array master. An array rune master might be very powerful in a place with an array, but without the help of an array, he could only rely on his own strength. In Yi Fei's eyes, Li Xiaotian's strength was only at the 10th level of the martial master realm. He was only slightly stronger. With such strength, I might be able to defeat him. Kill. Devour sword intent. Yi Fei steadied his body and took a step forward. With the devouring spirit sword in hand, he charged towards Li Xiaotian again. Demon, what kind of demonic art are you cultivating? How can you withstand the attacks of 2 of my beast souls and still be uninjured? Li Xiaotian was completely confused. Yi Fei's physical defense was terrifying. It was the first time he, a martial arts grandmaster, had seen something like this in his life. It was also because of this that Li Xiaotian did not dare to let Yi Fei continue to grow. I don't care what strange things you have. Even if I have to give up the Sword King's inheritance, I will still kill you, you ant. 5 Finger Mountain. This time, Li Xiaotian was truly enraged. He used all of his strength as a martial arts grandmaster to fight this round. The night sky was affected and turned pitch black. The 5 true yuan mountains overlapped and combined, smashing down on Yi Fei continuously. At the same time, the strange python was also roaring. It did not use its snake tail to attack Yi Fei again. Instead, its entire python body swam like water. The moment Li Xiaotian made his move, the monstrous python had already swam behind Yi Fei like a bolt of lightning. It opened its bloody mouth to the limit, like a bloody cave, trying to swallow Yi Fei whole. Kill. The sword in Yi Fei's hand turned and ignored the 5 true yuan mountains that were about to smash down on him. He held the soul-devouring sword with both hands. The moment the strange python opened its mouth, he turned into a sword beam and rushed directly into the strange python's bloody mouth. This ant is crazy. This is not good. He wants to use his sword intent to kill my beast soul and severely injure me. Ant, don't be so arrogant. 5 Finger Mountain, suppress him. Li Xiaotian's face suddenly revealed a look of fear. The Blood Soul Array was the beast soul that the Array Inscriptionist fed with his own blood. If the beast soul was destroyed, the Array Inscriptionist would also suffer a huge backlash. The reason why Li Xian had not dared to tell Li Xiaotian about the Demon Sealing Pagoda was because he was afraid of exposing the fact that his beast soul had been killed and his foundation destroyed. If that happened, Li Xiaotian would not think highly of him. Not only would Li Xian lose his position as the top genius of the Li family, but he would also lose his rightful position in the Array faction. Yifei had also noticed this weakness of the Array inscriptionist, so he took the risk. Even if both sides suffered, he wanted to kill the beast soul first. Unfortunately, Li Xiaotian, as a martial grandmaster, was one step ahead. Rumble. The 5 true Yuan mountains pressed down mercilessly, as if they were going to crush Yi Fei into meat paste. However, Yi Fei did not even look at them. Not only did he not block them, but he also took the initiative to jump up, allowing the 5 mountains to smash him faster. Boom! The first mountain smashed down, and Yi Fei spat out blood on the spot. However, a terrifying backlash pushed him even faster towards a strange python. Boom! The second mountain smashed down, and Yi Fei spat out blood. However, he still gritted his teeth and used the momentum to increase his speed. Ant, how dare you? Die for me. I don't believe that I, a martial grandmaster, can't kill a 5th martial master trash like you. Li Xiaotian's eyes were red. After saying that, the remaining 3 Zhan Yuan mountains smashed onto Yi Fei's body as if they were going all out. However, what made Li Xiaotian dumbfounded was that, even so, Yi Fei didn't die on the spot. Only a few of his ribs were broken, and there were many cracks on his battle demon golden body. Yi Fei, on the other hand, made use of the terrifying recoil force and rushed to the front of the strange python's beast soul almost instantly. He raised the devouring soul sword in his hand and slashed it down forcefully. Boom! The night sky shook. The strange python's huge snake head had been cut in half by Yi Fei. It turned into bits of flowing light and dissipated between heaven and earth. Puff! The blood soul array was broken, and Li Xiaotian spat out a mouthful of blood. Half of it was due to his injuries, while the other half was due to his anger. Ever since he became a martial grandmaster, Li Xiaotian had never been so angry and aggrieved. He, a martial grandmaster, was unable to kill a martial master's servant disciple. This was a great humiliation. Roar! Ant, just you wait. I don't care what kind of demonic cultivation method you practice. I won't let you go. His Highness the Crown Prince won't let your family off either. You dare to kill my beloved disciple and destroy my blood soul array. You better prepare to die. Li Xiaotian said. He was about to leap into the air and turn around to escape. His heart was filled with endless humiliation and hatred. However, Yi Fei's battle demon golden body was too abnormal. He had survived 5 attacks from a martial grandmaster. Li Xiaotian was starting to fear Yi Fei. Where are you going? Li Xiaotian, what did you just say? If you have any problems, come at me. If you dare to hurt my family Yi, I will tear you into pieces. Yi Fei suddenly became furious. Although he did not have a good impression of the family Yi, he was still a member of the family Yi. Moreover, the person he respected the most was still in the family Yi. How could he watch Li Xiaotian escape and hurt Yi Jian and the innocent people in the family Yi? Li Xiaotian, you forced me to do this. Undying sword soul, devouring sword intent. I want you dead. Yi Fei finally made up his mind. In order to get rid of Li Xiaotian, Yi Fei quickly activated the Undying Sword Soul while activating the Devouring Sword Intent. The black energy in his body was instantly depleted. A terrifying sword shadow suddenly appeared on Yi Fei's body. The moment the Undying Sword Soul appeared, the entire area trembled. The sword chi was like a rainbow, piercing through the sky. Killing intent swept across the land like a raging wave. Poof! It was just a sword, but the dazzling sword light formed a huge black hole that was 10 times bigger than before, enveloping Li Xiaotian. No, what kind of sword intent is this? How could an ant release such a terrifying sword intent? I don't want to die. Spare me. Li Xiaotian struggled with all his might, trying to escape from this terrifying area. However, the devouring sword intent supported by the undying sword soul was too terrifying. Yi Fei even suspected that if he was strong enough, he could even use the undying sword soul to devour the stars. Li Xiaotian was just the weakest martial ancestor. Now that he was injured, how could he resist such a terrifying, devouring sword intent? Bam! Before he finished speaking, Li Xiaotian's entire body exploded on the spot, like a bloody mist floating in the air. Then it was completely devoured by the devouring sword intent, dissipating into the black hole. Not even a piece of flesh was left behind. Until his death, Li Xiaotian could not believe that he, an elder of the martial ancestor sect, would be beaten to a pulp by a mere servant disciple. Only a ball of soul fragments floated into the devouring spirit sword, telling the story of Li Xiaotian's shock, fear, disbelief, and regret before his death. Chapter 92. Chapter 92. The Crown Prince makes a move. Pa 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 pa. The sound of bones and tendons grinding against each other continuously rang out from Yi Fei's body. His flesh and blood were bouncing wildly like springs. A stifled feeling filled his throat, causing Yi Fei to open his mouth and spit out a large mouthful of black blood onto the ground. Yi Fei could faintly see bone fragments in the black blood, which were also expelled from his body. At the same time, after spitting out this mouthful of blood, Yi Fei felt so comfortable that he wanted to roar. The Devil Emperor Sutra was worthy of being an Earth-grade cultivation technique. Not only did the War Devil Golden Body have an abnormal defense, it also had a certain healing effect. Originally, Yi Fei was still worried about what he would do if he used the Undying Sword Soul and used up all the black energy in his body. After all, his victory over Li Xiaotian was a narrow one. At the end of the day, Yi Fei's cultivation level was still too low. He had only been able to defeat a martial ancestor because of his battled demon golden body, undying sword soul, and devouring sword intent. Yi Fei was not a match for a Wuzong at all. If Li Xiaotian had not been so conceited and thought that with his status as a Wuzong, he would not have bothered to fight a battle of attrition with Yi Fei. Instead, he would have used the most forceful method to capture or kill Yi Fei. It was really hard to say who would win this battle. Looks like I have to make the best use of my time and quickly raise my cultivation level. Yi Fei looked around and made sure there was no danger. He sat cross-legged on the ground and began to cultivate. He wanted to restore the vital essence in his body. At the same time, he was waiting for the elders of Wu Province to come and save him. There are too many dangerous places around Wu Province. It's nighttime now, and demonic beasts are everywhere. Instead of going out and running around, it's safer to stay in this cemetery. Yi Fei also believed that the battle between him and Li Xiaotian had caused such a huge commotion that the experts of the martial house should have sensed it. What he needed to do now was to cultivate peacefully while waiting for the masters from Wu Province to arrive. However, the masters from Wu Province did not arrive. An hour later, Yi Fei was pleasantly surprised to find that he had finally broken through. He was originally at the peak of the 5th grade martial master realm. After the life and death battle just now, Yi Fei had gained a lot of insights. The quality of his 1st grade Earth grade Dantian had also greatly increased Yi Fei's cultivation speed. Before the experts from Wu Province arrived, Yi Fei was surprised to find that he had already reached the 6th level of the martial master realm. After tasting the sweetness of the battle demon's golden body, Yi Fei finally made up his mind to break through to the martial ancestor realm and martial highness realm as soon as possible. Then, he would once again enter the demon sealing tower and obtain the complete 9-fold demon imperial scripture from the demon emperor. Strange. Why haven't the masters from Wu Province arrived yet? After waiting for a while, Yi Fei still didn't see any elders from Wu Province coming to pick him up. He looked a little confused. Had he been abandoned by Wu Province? That was unlikely. Even if the other elders from Wu Province had abandoned him, the old mansion master, Bai Ling, and her master, Elder Chun, would definitely come looking for him. After all, it was very rare for someone to comprehend martial intent in Wu Province. The Demon Emperor had also confirmed that with his current aptitude, he was nothing in the sacred land. However, in Wu Province, he was definitely the target of the entire Wu Province's protection and nurturing. As for the reason, his master, the Demon Emperor, hadn't had time to tell him. Yi Fei, who was in a hurry to leave the Demon's Ceiling Tower, didn't bother to ask. Yi Fei also didn't know that the elders from Wu Province were frantically looking for him. Unfortunately, Li Xiaoyan's betrayal had caught Wu Province unprepared. Li Xiaoyan used to be an elder of the Array faction, so he was very familiar with the various arrays in Wu Province. He only needed to set up a few deceptive arrays to make many elders from Wu Province anxious. It was even more difficult to pinpoint Yi Fei's specific location in a short period of time. After waiting for a long time and not seeing any elders from Wu Province, Yi Fei, who was bored, suddenly remembered that when the Xiaotian had died, there was still a fragment of his soul that had been devoured by the Devourer's sword. He hadn't had time to look at it yet. It's boring to keep waiting. Why don't I take a look at what the Devourer's sword has devoured this time? It'll be great if it's some kind of powerful martial technique. As his strength increased, Yi Fei felt that his 13th sword style couldn't keep up with his current level. He needed to master a stronger Earth-grade martial technique. Unfortunately, the Devourer's sword in his hand was a fake made by the Demon Emperor. It wasn't much different from the real thing. The memory it devoured was completely random. How unlucky. This soul fragment still doesn't store a martial technique, but Li Xiaoyan's deepest memory before he died. When Yi Fei sensed the information from the Devourer's sword, he shook his head in disappointment. However, he still closed his eyes and started to look at the memory. Then, his expression became extremely ugly. This was a memory of Li Xiaotian colluding with the Crown Prince of Zhao Ji, and betraying Wu Province. It turned out that Li Xiaotian hadn't planned to rebel against Wu Province. Instead, he had betrayed Wu Province in exchange for the Crown Prince's support in controlling Wu Province and even his dream of becoming the governor. It wasn't until Yi Fei exposed a scheme in front of everyone that the Wu Province's old governor had taken action to remove Li Xiaotian from his position as an elder in order to appease Yi Fei and appease Yi Fei's dissatisfaction with Wu Province. He had even publicly suppressed Li Xiaotian and humiliated him. He had lost all his dignity and prestige. It was impossible for such a person to become the Martial House Master and be accepted by the other elders of the Martial House. In addition, Li Xian's death had been a huge blow to Li Xiaotian, so he had decided to rebel against the Martial House. Since he couldn't control Wu Province, he would destroy Wu Province. It was the same. Li Xiaotian, who was unwilling to be imprisoned for 30 years, secretly used a voice transmission talisman to contact the Crown Prince, Zhao Ji. When he saw this, Yi Fei was shocked to discover how eye-catching the Swordmaster Mystic Realm was. Not only had Princess Zhao Yu come, but even Crown Prince Zhao Ji had secretly lurked near Wu Province. However, due to the grudge between the Zhao royal family and Tianyan Wufu, Zhao Ji didn't have the guts to openly enter Tianyan Wufu like Zhao Yu. Instead, he secretly ordered Li Xiaotian to act as a spy to prevent Zhao Yu from absorbing the extraterrestrial divine fire. At the same time, he secretly sent the royal ghost guards to the Swordmaster Mystic Realm in an attempt to snatch the inheritance in advance. So, the 4 mysterious people I met before were sent by the Crown Prince. No wonder they were so strong. Yi Fei had a sudden realization. He had a bad premonition in his heart and continued to watch. Yi Fei's back was drenched in cold sweat the moment he looked at it. When Crown Prince Zhao Ji discovered that the Swordmaster inheritance, which was almost in his hands, had been obtained by a servant, Zhao Ji was furious. He immediately ordered Li Xiaotian to capture Yi Fei no matter what method he used and interrogate him about the Swordmaster Mystic Realm, especially the secrets of the sword intent and the spirit-devouring sword. At the same time, the cunning Zhao Ji also made preparations. He didn't dare to enter Tianyan Wufu, but he investigated Yi Fei's identity thoroughly through Li Xiaotian. When he found out that Yi Fei came from a small family in Blackrock City, Zhao Ji was even more disdainful and came up with a completely vicious plan. That was to let Li Xiaotian be in charge of capturing Yi Fei. Crown Prince Zhao Ji had already rushed to Black Rock City with his trusted aides, intending to capture everyone in the family Yi. This way, even if Li Xiaotian didn't succeed, Crown Prince Zhao Ji could still use the family Yi as a threat to force Yi Fei to reveal the secrets of the sword intent and the spirit-devouring sword. What a despicable method. Crown Prince Zhao Ji, so all of this was secretly orchestrated by you. It's fine if you want to deal with me, but you shouldn't have dealt with the family Yi. When Yi Fei saw this, a terrifying murderous intent was released from his body. The Crown Prince's actions had truly infuriated him. Yi Fei didn't care about the life and death of the other people in the family Yi. But for Yi Jian, who had taken care of him since he was young, Yi Fei would never allow anyone to hurt him. No, it's been 2 days since the Crown Prince took action. I definitely can't let the family Yi be implicated because of me. I definitely can't let anything happen to Uncle Jian. He had to rush back to the family Yi immediately. The sooner the better. Chapter 93. Chapter 93 Family Yi Crisis. Li Xiaotian. You bastard. If you dare to harm even a hair on Yi Fei's head, I swear that I will make your Li clan cease to exist. More than a dozen powerful figures quickly flew over from the distant sky towards a graveyard. Yi Fei didn't need to raise his head to know that it was the old mansion master and a group of elders from Wu province who were rushing over. This also made Yi Fei feel a little touched. If you respect me, I will respect you tenfold. Seeing that the elders of Wu province had all come out to save him, Yi Fei finally felt a sense of belonging to Wu province. Man or head, I'm here. Yi Fei raised his head, full of energy. After he finished speaking, a figure appeared in front of Yi Fei from the night sky. He looked at Yi Fei anxiously. Who else could it be but the old manor lord? It wasn't until he saw that Yi Fei was fine that the old manor lord finally let out a sigh of relief. However, he still couldn't help but blame himself as he sighed. I was too soft-hearted. Li Xiaotian's father died in battle for Wu province, so I didn't have the heart to punish him. I almost made a huge mistake. By the way, Yi Fei, are you all right? Did Li Xiaotian do anything to you? Don't worry, Governor. I'm fine. Also, Li Xiaotian can no longer pose a threat to me or Wu province. Yi Fei replied with a smile. Brat, what do you mean? That's right. Where's that traitor Li Xiaotian? He brought you here. Could it be that he escaped by himself? Old Wu looked at Yi Fei with a strange expression. Chen Changfeng led the other elders to check the surroundings. Other than finding traces of a fierce battle, they didn't find any trace of Li Xiaotian. They were also puzzled. Many people couldn't help but look at Yi Fei suspiciously. Of course, they did not think that a martial master disciple could kill a martial ancestor realm elder. Instead, they were worried that Yi Fei might have been forced by Li Xiaotian to reveal some secrets, such as the Sword King's inheritance or sword intent. Therefore, Li Xiaotian would let Yi Fei go. The old mansion master also thought of this. He asked in shock, Yi Fei, don't tell me you. Yi Fei's gaze was resolute as he said, Of course I won't. Li Xiaotian has already been killed by me. Not even his bones remain. Boom. Extreme shock. No, it would be more accurate to say that they were shocked. After hearing this, the elders could not remain calm. A martial master disciple had actually managed to kill a martial ancestor realm elder. This Yi Fei was definitely not inferior to those peerless geniuses from the Holy Lands. And such a monster was actually in Tianyan Wufu. The elders were overjoyed. Elder Chun was so happy that his mouth was crooked. Yi Fei was a sword cultivator. The more powerful Yi Fei was, the more powerful the sword sect was. Qin Changfeng felt extremely proud. The old mansion master was also surprised and overjoyed. He was so excited that tears streamed down his face. He looked at Yi Fei and said, Wu province is very lucky. I originally thought that Wu province would be ruined in my hands. It seems that Wu province's luck is not over yet. That's why we were able to obtain such an outstanding disciple. Yi Fei, it was our negligence that caused you to suffer. From today onwards, You are the chief disciple of Tianyin Wufu. No one can bully you anymore. Tomorrow, we will announce this matter to the entire prefecture, Old Wu said happily. Ever since Zhao Qianjun had killed his way into Wu province and killed the 3 mansion masters and many high-ranking elders, Wu province had rapidly declined. The position of chief disciple had been vacant for a long time. When they heard that Old Wu had decided to let Yi Fei take the position, the elders would have objected in the past. They were worried that Yi Fei was too young and lacked experience. But now, when they saw that Yi Fei had even killed Li Xiaotian, a Wuzong elder, no one had any objections. Many of them even looked very excited. When a chief disciple with sufficient strength appeared in Wu province, it usually meant that Wu province was about to be revived. Yi Fei hadn't expected that Wu province would think so highly of him. However, when he thought about his family Ye's current situation, he still firmly refused. Mansion Master, Deputy Mansion Master, elders, thank you for thinking so highly of me. I will remember this in my heart. However, I cannot accept this kind of kindness. If possible, I hope that I can withdraw from Wu province. What? Withdraw from Wu province? Yi Fei's words once again left the elder speechless. Even Elder Chun from the Sword Sect was anxious. Yi Fei, why do you want to withdraw from Wu province? That's right. If Wu province does anything wrong, I will immediately issue an order to rectify it. The mansion master and Old Wu hurriedly tried to persuade him to stay. After all, Yi Fei was a monstrous genius who had comprehended sword intent. It would be a great loss to Wu province if they missed out on such a genius. As long as they could persuade Yi Fei to stay, the elders present were willing to make any concessions. Realizing that the elders had misunderstood his words, Yi Fei gritted his teeth and decided to tell them about his family Ye's situation. Yi Fei smiled bitterly. Everyone, I'm leaving Wu province not because I'm dissatisfied with Wu province. When I killed Li Xiaotian just now, I heard something very terrifying from him. There was no need for Yi Fei to hide anything from these elders who were willing to come to his rescue. He immediately told them about the crown prince, Li Xiaotian, and the imminent danger his family Yi was facing. Hearing Yi Fei's words, the elders' expressions all changed. Princess Zhao Yu, who was standing at the back of the crowd, was also shocked. Royal brother is also here. Is he still planning to attack the family Yi? Elder Qin's expression was extremely serious. This is troublesome. Wu province's current strength is no longer enough to fight against the royal family. If it were someone else attacking the family Yi, we would still step in. But this time it's the crown prince himself. The crown prince has clearly calculated that our Wu province doesn't have the strength to fight against the royal family, let alone harm him. That's why he personally went to Black Rock City to capture Yi Fei's family. This person's methods are so despicable. What will happen when he becomes the emperor in the future? What's the point of saying all this? The crown prince has already made his move. How should Wu province deal with this? Should we just stand by and watch, or should we take the risk? Chief, please come up with an idea. The elders discussed animatedly. In the end, they all looked at the old chief at the same time, hoping that he could come up with the best idea. The old chief looked calm. He looked at Yi Fei, then at the worried expressions of the elders. He said in a low voice, "There's no need to discuss this anymore. If our Wu province can't even guarantee the safety of Disciple's family, then what's the point of talking about attracting more geniuses to join us and making our Wu province prosper? Yi Fei, where is your family now? I'll go over right now and stop the crown prince." The old mansion lord looked at Yi Fei again, and a look of determination appeared on his face. Such a move was extremely risky. Even if the elders of Wu province managed to stop the crown prince from harming the family Yi in the end, the enmity between them and the royal family would only deepen. Yi Fei also understood this, which was why he wanted to leave Wu province. When he heard the old chief's words, Yi Fei was touched, but he also hurriedly refused. "Chief, I appreciate your kindness, but this is my family Ye's matter. I can't let the entire Wu province take this risk with me. What nonsense are you spouting, kid? Are you looking down on us old men?" Elder Chun was a straightforward person, So he immediately snapped. Yi Fei, you are the most important disciple of Wu Province. You are also the hope of our Wu Province's revival. Your matter is worth our risk, Old Wu said in a low voice. His and Chun Chongfeng's opinions represented the opinions of all the elders present. Yi Fei couldn't help but feel a surge of warmth in his heart. He knew that if he refused, he would be hypocritical. The family Yi really needed strong external help right now. Thank you, everyone. I, Yi Fei, and the family Yi will never forget what you've done today. Yi Fei bowed deeply and solemnly to these elders who had helped him, preparing to give them a big bow to express the gratitude in his heart. However, a gentle force suddenly stopped him. The old chief's expression was equally solemn as he said in a low voice, Yi Fei, you don't have to do this. We are not only taking this risk to help you, but also to save ourselves. Save ourselves. Yi Fei was stunned when he heard this. That's right, we are saving ourselves. Every Wu province is supported by one or more holy lands. The existence of Wu province is to help these holy lands unearth talents that they have overlooked. We train them on their behalf and send them to the holy lands in exchange for their protection in Wu province. Zhao Yu walked over from the back of the crowd and explained to Yi Fei, however, this protection will only last for 100 years. Once the 100 years are up, if Wu province is unable to continue sending in talents that the holy lands are satisfied with, Wu province will lose the protection of the holy lands. What will happen to Wu province once it loses the support of the holy lands? Many of the elders from Wu province looked gloomy when they heard this. The old chief also sighed and shook his head. Ever since the evil Sword King slaughtered countless experts from Wu province, no one from Wu province has been able to enter the holy lands for 200 years. This is a very dangerous sign. If we can't find enough amazing talents to join the holy lands in 10 years, all that awaits us is destruction. Yi Fei, you are Wu province's last hope. Therefore, no matter what, we will not let anything happen to you. Now do you understand why we are willing to take this risk? Chapter 94. Chapter 94, Prince of Blackwood. Good. Yi Fei, with your words, even if this old man were to bet the entire Wu province on you, it wouldn't matter. There's no time to lose. Let's set off immediately. Junior martial brother, lead the other elders and keep an eye on Wu province. Don't let some people cause trouble again. The old mansion lord was very satisfied with Yi Fei's answer, and a sense of pride appeared on his body. Yi Fei could tell that this mansion lord was a man of character when he was young. Old Wu, along with the other elders, hurriedly complied. They all soared into the sky and returned to Wu province. Surprisingly, Princess Zhao Yu stayed behind. She even walked up to the old chief and said, Grandpa, I want to go to Black Rock City too. You're going too? Yi Fei was a little puzzled. This time, he was going to stop the crown prince from threatening the family Yi. He was going against the royal family, and Princess Zhao Yu was a member of the royal family. As if understanding what Yi Fei was thinking, Zhao Yu's eyes revealed a trace of hatred. She explained, I have a grudge with the crown prince, so you don't have to worry. I will stand on the crown prince's side. The crown prince seems to be your elder brother. What grudge do you have against him? Yi Fei asked curiously. Zhao Yu glanced at Yi Fei but did not answer. The old mansion master looked at his granddaughter with heartache. He shook his head and sighed. Being born in the imperial family is really a sin. If it weren't for the protection of Wu province, your mother would have. Grandfather, don't say any more. I don't want to hear it. Zhao Yu turned her face away. She didn't want to hear about her mother. Obviously, it was a sad story. Although Yi Fei was very curious, it wasn't good for him to pry into other people's privacy. It was more important to resolve the family Yez crisis as soon as possible. He would absolutely not allow the crown prince to cause any harm to the family Yi. Black Forest County, County King's Manor. Suddenly, a woman's sharp voice broke the silence of the Wang mansion. His Highness the Crown Prince has arrived. Duke of Black Forest. Why aren't you coming out to welcome him? What Crown Prince? In the inner chamber of the prince's mansion, Commandery Prince Black Forest had a worried look on his face. He had just received news that his two sons, Wang Ming and Wang Liang, had both died in Wu Province. Now he was grieving. Unexpectedly, before he could avenge his sons, His Highness the Crown Prince had come. The second-rank Prince of Black Forest could only put away his sadness. He hurriedly led a group of wives and concubines, as well as a large number of masters of the prince's mansion, and ran out to greet the Crown Prince. "Greetings, Your Highness. Is there anything Your Highness wants me to do?" County King Blackwood. You're quite a good dog." This Crown Prince is busy in the imperial city, but you're here with a beautiful wife and concubines. You're quite happy. Crown Prince Zhao Ji had high cheekbones, bee-like eyes, and thin lips. He looked mean and ruthless, but he was also very talented. He was born to be a genius who cultivated some kind of evil cultivation method, which was why he defeated many princes and seized the position of Crown Prince. As he spoke, Zhao Ji didn't even look at the kneeling second-rank Prince of Black Forest. He just stared at the group of women in the prince's mansion, and his eyes were flirtatious. This made the second-rank Prince of Black Forest's heart skip a beat. Even in the remote Black Forest County, he had heard of the Crown Prince's reputation. It was said that Zhao Ji's biggest hobby was to play with other people's wives and daughters. Moreover, he would play with them wherever he went. The slightest resistance would result in the extermination of the whole family. However, the second-rank Prince of Black Forest was also a clever person. When he saw that the Crown Prince was interested in his wives and daughters, he not only didn't get angry, but also tactfully kowtowed in a low voice and said, "Your Highness, please forgive me. I didn't prepare well. I'll order the women in the family to prepare a banquet to welcome Your Highness back." Second-rank Prince of Black Forest, you're a good dog. I like you. It's a waste of talent to let you stay in a poor place like Black Forest County. How about this? I'll give you a chance to make a contribution. Are you willing to do it? As Zhao Ji spoke, he walked to the princess and unceremoniously took the plump woman into his arms. His big hands wandered freely, which made the princess cry out in fear and shame. However, because the other party was the Crown Prince, the princess didn't dare to resist at all. She could only look at the second-rank Prince of Black Forest for help. At this time, the second-rank Prince of Black Forest certainly pretended to be deaf and mute. When he heard that Zhao Ji wanted to put him in an important position, the old man even forgot the pain of losing his son, let alone the little bit of humiliation his wife and concubine suffered. As a prince, if he wanted a woman, wouldn't it be easy for him to say a word? Therefore, the second-rank Prince of Black Forest lowered his head even more. He kowtowed to the Crown Prince with great surprise and said, "I'm willing to follow Your Highness through water and tread on fire. I won't frown." "Good. I like people like you who know how to adapt to circumstances." Zhao Ji nodded with satisfaction and ordered, "Second-rank Prince of Black Forest, immediately gather all the troops and follow me to the Blackstone City where the family Yi is located. I'm going to destroy the family Yi and slaughter everyone in the city." A fierce light flashed in Zhao Ji's eyes. As the Crown Prince, he was determined to get the secret realm of the evil Demon Sword King. However, in the end, it was taken away by a lowly servant in Wu Province. As the Crown Prince, Zhao Ji had always been the one who took other people's things. When this kind of thing happened to Zhao Ji, it was absolutely intolerable. "What? The family Yi?" The second-rank Prince of Black Forest raised his head in surprise. He didn't expect that the one who provoked the Crown Prince was the family Yi in the Blackstone City, which had been in the limelight recently. "What? You don't want to?" Crown Prince Zhao Ji stared at the second-rank Prince of Black Forest with an unfriendly look. "Why wouldn't I? Your Highness, you may not know that my two sons were killed by that family Yi Fei. If he wasn't a disciple of Wu Province, I would have gathered the troops and killed his family Yi right now." The second-rank Prince of Black Forest was speaking the truth this time. With his power as a second-rank prince, it was easy for him to investigate the cause of his two sons' deaths. However, Yi Fei was a disciple of Wu Province. As a secular prince, he didn't have the guts to go against Wu province. Now that the family Yi had provoked the crown prince for some unknown reason, in the second-rank prince of Black Forest's eyes, it was a God-given opportunity for revenge. Immediately, the second-rank prince of Black Forest ran out and began to gather the troops and prepare to follow the crown prince to slaughter the city. As for what kind of humiliation his beautiful wives and concubines would suffer after he left, the second-rank prince of Black Forest, who wanted to curry favor with the crown prince in order to pursue more glory and wealth, did not care. After the second-rank prince of Black Forest left with a large number of masters, the inner chamber of the prince's mansion was soon filled with shameful cries of a woman and the crown prince, Zhao Ji, panting happily. However, what the second-rank prince of Black Forest and the crown prince, Zhao Ji, didn't know was that the family Yi was no longer what it used to be. Even the meticulous Yi Jian in the Black Forest County had sent an experienced clansman here to buy elixirs and other cultivation resources that the family needed. When the clansman heard that the second-rank prince of Black Forest was going to mobilize the troops to destroy the family Yi in the Blackstone City and slaughter the entire city, he was so frightened that he didn't even have time to buy the elixirs. He fled the city overnight and returned to the family Yi to report the news. In the Blackstone City, the family Yi was extremely shocked when they heard the news. Although the family Yi's strength had increased greatly thanks to Yi Fei's help and was now the most powerful family in the Blackstone City, it was still impossible for them to go against the second-rank prince's mansion and even the crown prince. When the bad news spread, it wasn't just the family Yi who was shocked. The clansmen of the other family, Yi who had gone to the royal city with the family, Yi also rushed back to inform their respective families when they heard the news. The news quickly spread throughout the city. None of the families in the Blackstone City could sit still when they heard that a massacre was going to take place. Before the family Yi could prepare a response, the various family heads in the city had already rushed to the family Yi overnight in fear to demand an explanation from the family Yi. Family Yi, it's all your fault. We're in big trouble because of you this time. It's all that little bastard Yi Fei's fault. It wasn't enough that he provoked the heavenly Xian sect last time. This time, he provoked the crown prince. That's the crown prince we're talking about. If he gives the order, our entire family will be wiped out. Family Yi, you have to give us an explanation. Why don't you all escape from the Blackstone City now and never come back? This way, the Blackstone City can avoid a disaster. These family heads were all talking at once. They couldn't wait to chase the family Yi out of the Blackstone City so that they could avoid a disaster. Yi Jian was so angry that his face turned white. He shouted in a deep voice, "All of you shut up. Yi Fei provoked the crown prince. This is also our family Yi's problem. What does it have to do with you all? If you want to escape, go ahead and escape. No one in our family Yi is a coward." That's right. No matter how young Master Yi Fei offended the crown prince, young Master isn't the kind of person to stir up trouble. The crown prince must be jealous of young Master's talent and is even more afraid of our family Yi's rise. It had to be said that after experiencing many things, especially after Yi Jian took control of the family Yi, the atmosphere of the entire family Yi had changed. In short, they were more courageous, and they supported and worshipped Yi Fei unconditionally. In the family Yi, Yi Fei was the pillar of support. His status was even higher than that of Yi Jian, the head of the family. If it weren't for the fact that Yi Fei was too young, many of the family Yi's elders would have worshipped Yi Fei like the ancestors of those big families. Yi Jian couldn't bear to hear anyone speak ill of Yi Fei. He pointed to the door and said, "Whoever dares to speak ill of Yi Fei, get out immediately. Our family, Yi doesn't welcome you." "Fine, we'll leave. We'll move out tonight and let your family Yi stay here and wait for the crown prince to massacre the city." The various family heads were afraid of Yi Fei, but they weren't very respectful of Yi Jian. Even though Yi Jian was a first-stage martial master expert, seeing that they couldn't drive the family Yi away, some of the more cowardly family heads decided to take their clansmen and escape from the Blackstone City to seek refuge. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.